Welcome, 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 one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, have we got a show for you today? We have two bastions of liberalism in the house today. We have Bishop, and we have Bishop, the head, or the, I guess, the one who coined the phrase, or maybe he's just the current thought leader in Lockheed liberalism. And then we have one of the hosts of Lib and Learn itself, Soy Pill. And we're going to be talking about something I think that is a lot of people have been discussing is what should the liberal response be to the Trump administration apparently subpoenaing Hasan Piker. What should our stance be on the U.S.'s relationship with countries like Cuba? We're going to be talking about all that and more. But first, I want to give the mic to each of these lovely individuals to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit more about who they are, what their thoughts are on the subject, and we'll get it from there. I'm going to hand the mic first to Mr. Soypill, and then we'll let Bishop introduce himself. So, Soypill, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
On the whole thing, give my intro.
Just tell people who you are, what you do, and what are your thoughts on whether we should defend Hasan Piker. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm the Soy Pill. I make video essays. I stream sometimes. Going to be ramping that up in the near future. And I think that going after Hasan or kind of ignoring this, turning a blind eye, is part of more of like a partisan, like vindictive, personal thing, which I understand given the fact that this guy would probably say the same if it was some sort of liberal person being indicted. But that's not an indication of how we should conduct ourselves. It's irrelevant what his behavior is. It's pretty irrelevant to me if he even did break a law here, because what seems obvious to me is this is an administrative crackdown trying to introduce some sort of chilling effect. They're not applying this standard over every single person that was on that convoy. They're not doing it to their own partisan pundits like Nick Shirley, who might have stayed in a sanctioned hotel. This is just an attack to try to silence critics, and you should look at it as a fascist government and an authoritarian move and oppose it regardless of who they're doing it to. Yeah.
Okay, glad to have you. And $10 from Pondering Politics to say, ask Stoypill to Steelman Joe's definition of populism. We'll save that for maybe the meat of the discussion. But thanks for being here. We're going to get into it as we go. Next up, we're going to give the mic to Mr. Bishop. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, it's Bishop here, self-described Lockheed liberal. I'm a defense contractor by day and a shit poster on Twitter by night. My take on the Hasan situation is that I believe that a lot of the dialogue around Hasan right now is talking about the illegitimacy of the government and the illegitimacy of, like, obviously, in my opinion, a fascist type government and unwieldy use of our institutions. However, I still think that it's very important that we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater and just completely discredit any kind of a subpoena put out by federal law enforcement. And I think the point that I think really needs to be argued is that due to the relationship that we have with Cuba and the Cuban government, there is actually a cause for there to be serious scrutiny about political actions and government programs that happen on the island.
Interesting. Okay. And with that, I guess we'll get into it. Can you give us maybe elaborate a little bit more on that serious cause? Do we think that the subpoena may be legitimate? What are your thoughts on that? Go ahead.
I think the question is what is legitimate and what is illegitimate. I believe that now in the year of 2026, what we have across many different legal domains is we have a series of rules, regulations, and laws. And what we wind up having is situations where people will break a law and then maybe they'll be pursued and said, okay, well, now we're going to hold you accountable. You did break the law, but the problem is that nobody is prosecuted for that law. And so I think one of the main ways people are looking at this is they're like, oh, well, maybe Hasan violated sanctions. But number one, we don't know if we agree with the sanctions in the first place. And number two, like what we're seeing with this Turning Point USA kid, it doesn't appear that the violations of these sanctions are being applied evenly Therefore, it is targeted. And while I think that there is certainly some truth in the unequal application of those violations, it really brings me to think about the situation with Al Capone. And don't get me wrong, I do not think that Hasan is Al Capone. I want to be clear. Al Capone killed people. Hasan is just a streamer. But we understand that the way they went after Al Capone, the way they got him was for tax evasion. And we understand that he wasn't targeted by the IRS, that the IRS was randomly like, oh, hey, we think this guy might have a problem with his taxes. The problem is he was causing all these other problems and taking advantage of all these loopholes with the liberties that are afforded in a liberal society as opposed to an authoritarian state. He was taking advantage of them. And so we understand that they had to apply some of these rules that he was breaking to address the greater problem, which was to get him off the street. Now, I say all of this in acknowledging that the threshold, the legal threshold for it to be a criminal complaint is actually outrageously high. So I don't think we're even really at that level, but I do think that the hostile nature of the Cuban government and the Cuban island is unbelievably not talked about. A lot of people talk about Cuba as if, oh, it's just another island down there and we had like a shaky past with them. But to not go on and on and on, the fact of the matter is, according to Hasan, the trip was organized with the Cuban government. So this was a Cuban government approved political program. And in it being a political program, that means that the Cuban military and intelligence services were somewhat involved. Even if that means that their involvement was, we approve, it means that they were involved. And I think that's way more serious than anybody's talking about right now.
Yeah, so a few things. One, my understanding is not only did he approve this with the Cuban government, because, yeah, no fucking shit, you have to let the government know before you take a giant ship full of 20 tons of supplies and drive it up to their border. So, of course, they let them know. He also went through OFAC, the Office of Foreign Assets Commission, or whatever that stands for. So he went through the same government that is subpoenaing him right now. So the idea that this is like some Cuban coordinated back deal to subvert American interest is pretty ridiculous to me. The second thing is this subpoena isn't alleging a crime even. It's just, hey, let's go after you by looking into you, assuming that you did something bad, but we're not sure yet, which is very clearly like, let's, try to investigate this person to produce some sort of chilling effect. And third, you did this whole Al Capone thing. Well, what's the Al Capone equivalent that Hasan is doing right now that is like, well, this guy's doing something illegal that we can't get him through, and it's a loophole, so let's go after him. The thing he's doing is talking shit about the government. He's shitting on Democrats, he's shitting on Trump, and you could not like that, and that's fine. I don't like some of the stuff he says. In fact, I don't like a lot of the stuff he says, but I would never say, and this is why we need to find some sort of legal loophole, like, hey, look, he went 55 in a 50 zone, let's lock him the fuck up. That doesn't justify it. So what do you think justifies what he is doing right now, that the Cuban government colluded with him to subvert American interests, or some sort of insane, like back deal here that you think is actually worth arresting this person over? Or what he's doing outside of this, that this side, not real like thing, but this like side project to arrest him is worth arresting him over?
Well, let's start off with some ground terms here. We're not talking about a legal loophole. A lot of people are using a lot of this loose language to talk around the issues. This is not a loophole. I went to Cuba personally, and when I went to Cuba, I kept a notebook with me, and I documented every single thing that I did, because the legal permissions that I went to Cuba with, as Hasan noted, are very strict. And guess what? When I came back, I was questioned on it. This is not some legal loophole that somebody is, oh, well, technically it's 55 and a 50. This is actually very serious. And going to an island that is actively involved in military and intelligence operations is perhaps the most aggressive intelligence entity addressing the United States, consistently houses Chinese and Russian intelligence facilities. This isn't a joke. And by the way, to put this into comparison, because like I said, we keep on talking over Cuba like, oh, it's just like some interest. It's just some interest. If somebody went to Russia and started spending money at Russian military-owned premises, and then they came back and they said, hey, we're going to look into whether you violated any sanctions. I don't think anybody would be freaking out about it. In fact, I think most people would be saying, "Hey, wait, what? You spent money at a Russian military organization? Maybe we should look into it." And like you said, I think it's right. Number one,
Well,
from
look
my
into it for what?
perspective,
What's the risk
to
here?
see if well, I think the risk here is that he is collaborating with Cuban intelligence apparatus. I
give
mean,
them what?
one of the main things that he said when he in one of the main things people were talking about that he said was that the Cuban government reached out to him through an intermediary about having consistent internet access. So what is going on with him having consistent consistent internet access and consistent power access on an island in the middle of a blackout? Was that a military network? Was that a military generator? And if he was on the military network, what if all the FBI wants is possession of his laptop to start going through the records of getting to the bottom of the details of that military internet network? There's like 20 dozen different things here, and Hasan himself has said, and this really seems to be the case, he is not the target. He doesn't think he's the target. I don't think he's the target. It seems like honestly, it seems like Code Pink isn't even the target. It seems like the target might be whoever the main financial backers are of Code Pink. And to sit here and say that an intelligence agency has absolutely no interest in a series of influence operations that are addressing ongoing military conflicts. I don't understand how we can sort of live in that world where it's just like, oh, why would the FBI be interested? Of course they're interested.
So this to me is one of those things where people will look at the laws in the books for immigration and say, well, of course they broke the law. Don't you think they have an interest in investigating the laws that they broke? And you're kind of deferring to like these laws that exist, which by the way, haven't always existed and changed significantly under Obama and then were reversed in 2017. And then to say that this is not some sort of agenda driven thing, to me is belying the point that this is clearly an agenda driven thing. And whether or not they're targeting Hasan and Code Pink, the point of this is to, use them as this sort of surrogate for we're attacking Cuba. And the conversation right now is being centered on should Hasan get in trouble for this. If you think there's a good faith effort by an intelligence agency to go through Hasan's computer to find potential adversarial information, maybe this is totally possible. Do you think that's why he's being centered at these articles? Do you think that's why the conversation is centered entirely around him and not what you're saying? Because you're giving the most good faith possible interpretation of what an administration might be doing, which is to me absolutely ridiculous given everything we've seen come out of the Trump administration. Like you would have to be delusional to say anything like this is that unless it's on paper and ignoring the last 8 years of Trump that we've seen.
Well, one of the things that I when I listen to you and a panel of people speak about this on Live and Learn, I noticed that everybody's initial response was, well, this is coming out of the Trump administration, so we immediately need to completely discredit it. And while I think that large political things coming from the Trump administration warrant serious scrutiny, they warrant seriously going back over some things, I think it's utterly ridiculous to live in the world where we don't like the president, so we're just going to discredit literally everything that happens from the government on period. Because there's no real difference between that. I mean, that's essentially your argument. You said that I've got to be delusional to be asserting.
What information do you think that they'll get out of Hasan's laptop that they couldn't get through the entire military intelligence apparatus that they're already doing with spying, intercepting communications? Why do you think they're subpoenaing specifically Hasan and Code Pink? And why do you think these people are the ones being highlighted by Fox News, which, by the way, happened before Hasan or Code Pink have confirmed they even got a subpoena? So this is a sensationalized article to try to get ahead of something that might not have even happened yet. Maybe it's going to happen, or maybe it never will happen, but let's just say it will. This is meant to drum up hey, look at these left-wing people sentiment, clearly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I one of the things that we're talking about here is like, is this politically targeted? And it reminds me about conversations when people talk about terrorism. Oh, well, it's such a political thing about what is terrorism and what isn't terrorism. Well, terrorism by definition is political. So, of course, it's political. So,
Okay.
this dialogue about, like, oh, well, the only reason they're targeting Hasan is because he went to Cuba, because there's a huge military confrontation with Cuba right now. And it's like, yeah, that's how things work. When
No,
you,
no, no, no.
when
Wait,
you
hold
are
on.
in a
That's not what I'm alleging. I'm alleging they're going after Hassan
Okay.
because he's a left-wing streamer, not because he went to Cuba, right? Nick Shirley went to Cuba. He went to a sanctioned hotel, and they're not subpoenaing him, to my knowledge.
For sure. And I think it's very clear that they are not going after Nick Shirley because Nick Shirley is friendly to the regime.
Mm-hmm.
But they are not going after Hassan just because he's left wing, because if they were, they'd be going after every single major left wing commentator that didn't go to Cuba. They're going after Hassan because he's connected, he's low hanging fruit, he's connected to Code Pink, who is
Wait, what do you
outrageously
mean that didn't
nefarious.
go to Cuba? That's the whole reason they're able to have this excuse to go after them. They're going after
Well,
other people that went on the flotilla or the convoy that went to Cuba, and they're using that as an
Yeah.
excuse. Obviously, it's not irrelevant that they went to Cuba, but this is what they're using
Okay.
as the like, oh, and this is why we're allowed to go after you, right? Just like your example with Al Capone, where it's like, well, you did this tax law, now we have an excuse to punish you, to make an example of you, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. I think like I don't understand where the confusion here is. There's sort of like some allegation that something nefarious is going on because people collaborated with the Cuban government and by definition, with how it works, the Cuban military and intelligence apparatus to go on a political trip for the purposes of politics, and then they're being investigated upon it. In what world? I mean, honestly, it would be a miscarriage of justice if they weren't investigated for it. And I would apply that over to the turning. I just don't know this guy's name.
Nick
Brillen,
Shirley? Or no, a different guy?
or was Nick Shirley the one that went?
Brian Grimm
I mean,
went. I'm pretty sure Code Pink went. I don't know what their name is affiliated. I know Nick Shirley went on a separate trip. Yeah.
yeah, isn't Nick Shirley the one that he was in the hotel and he was like, oh, the Cuban intelligence officers are following me and I have to hold myself up, and he like left early or something?
Maybe. I didn't watch the video. He's the one
I
who's
don't know.
mentally disabled.
Yeah, well, that's, ever since Charlie Kirk, it's gotten really bad for that crowd. But yeah, no, I mean, and I think that's a really huge difference. I was going to point on that is that I thought it was the Brillin guy. Who's the Charlie Kirk replacement?
Oh,
He's got
Brylan
weird-
Hollyhand you're talking about.
Brylan Hollyhand. Yeah, I thought it was Brylan Hollyhand, but maybe it was Nick Shirley. But yeah, so whoever that little pipsqueak, conservative pipsqueak was that went, their experience was overwhelmingly different from the Code Pink experience. Their experience was that they had to lock themselves in their hotel, which, by the way, it seemed like it was the sanctioned hotel. So it seems like he violated that as well. And hide there until he could leave. And you want to know the reason why his experience was different? Was because he wasn't on a government-sponsored military and intelligence-approved propaganda trip. And so,
Wait,
I think that
do you keep ignoring the fact that this went through OFAC? Like he had to get all of this trip approved through OFAC. Like the American government sanctioned this trip. They said this was okay, right?
the American government might have sanctioned parts of this trip. Well, I mean, Hasan said that they did, but we don't know exactly what they said. We don't know exactly what was approved and what wasn't approved. For all we know, and this is most likely what happened, by the way, was that they had an agenda. They said on these dates, we're going to be at these locations, we're going to be at these venues, and this is where we're going to be staying. They submitted that to some kind of a government authority. They approved it and said, this isn't going to violate sanctions. Congratulations. And that's it. But that has nothing to do with the conversations that were had on the island. That has nothing to do with the people with the networks that they connected to on the island. And this is the big one. That has absolutely nothing to do with all of the organization and planning that went before they went, that the government probably wasn't privy to when they submitted the request for information, and certainly what happened after. So, I mean, I really don't understand this idea that it's like, oh, well, I mean, like down to every single person that they talked to on the street, the U.S. government sanctioned this trip. That's just not the case. And here's the other thing is that like, this really cannot be stated enough. Cuban intelligence is outrageously sophisticated. It is outrageously active. It did not curb its actions after the fall of the Soviet Union. There's this great BBC article I have with an interview with a CIA agent that focused primarily on counterintelligence, and through much of their career, they focused on Cuba's DGI, which is their intelligence agency, and they say very clearly, actually, the Cuban intelligence apparatus is significantly more robust than the KGB ever was. It's significantly more robust than the Russian SVR, which is the spiritual successor of the KGB. And so the idea that we're going to have this Cuban government approved, certainly, political program on the island, and that the Cuban intelligence wouldn't get involved at all is strange. The main question is, how involved did they get it? Like, was the extent of their involvement a cold approach on a couple of non-important, non-celebrity members there? Perhaps. Was there also an effort to establish a political program with the various political entities in that cohort? Most likely. And so it's worth exploring.
Okay. So my question is this. You're under the assumption that there could have been some sort of collusion with the Cuban government that was not sanctioned by the American government. They want to investigate that to see if some sanctions were broken. The extent to which that would be harmful to the American project is very questionable to me, like what Hasan or Code Pink could have done that would so greatly subvert American interest. I'm not quite sure, but maybe you can explain that. But regardless, why then are they not subpoenaing specifically the organizers of this convoy? Why are they not subpoenaing every single person that went on this convoy? Or why are they singling out two of the biggest names in left-wing media that are consistently opposed to their political project?
Sure. Yeah. So I think almost all of the attendees on that trip are people that fit into Hasan's headspace. I don't think there's like a lot. I could be wrong, but I believe that there are, let's just say, many other people on that trip that fit into Hasan's worldview and stuff. Like there's this like female tanky girl that was on the trip, and there's like this female comedian that's like pretty left wing that was on the trip. There's certainly several other people, and so I think we should start number one with the idea that we don't know who all got the subpoenas. Perhaps the only salacious people that got subpoenas were Hasan Piker and Code Pink, and perhaps it actually goes farther than that. But I mean, my honest read on this situation is, once again, Hasan's read on the situation. I think because of Hasan's size, because of his connections, because of his how many like large, widespread political connections and political collaborations he is probably involved with a lot of these different tentacles from this Code Pink backer that they're interested in. And I think it really is quite as simple as Hasan's read on it, is that they're fundamentally most interested in in what is it? I think his name is Singham, the one of the large financial backers behind Code Pink. Code Pink does significantly more sketchy stuff than Hasan Piker ever does. I mean, my own statement on this was that I didn't think Hasan should even be scrutinized for the trip. I thought maybe he should be scrutinized for the China trip, but that this is most likely related to Code Pink's connections. And then lo and behold, because Hasan apparently doesn't speak to lawyers, he's on stream every night talking about all the different sketchy political organizations connected to this trip. So yeah, I think that was probably the entire intent.
Okay, wait. So can I ask a question on what we actually agree
real quick,
on?
then I got to get to super chats, and I have a question for each of you. But yeah.
All right. Well, my question is, do we agree that Hasan, or maybe Code Pink, but definitely Hasan, should not be punished at all for this? That like just requesting some information from him is completely the limits to which this administration should be going?
I definitely, but yes, I completely agree with that. In fact, and this is, to add a little bit of levity here, one of the things that I consistently joke with people about, people like Jackson Hinkle, who are like behind enemy lines with the Houthis and deep into the Russians, is I'm like, guess what? The CIA probably compromised that kid like 2.5 years ago. So like the likelihood that this kid is ever going to go to prison for any of this stuff, if it ever reached a point in which he was going to reach that place, they would take him once he came back home. They'd threaten him with 30 years in prison and say, you're going to cooperate with us or your life is over. And guess what? So no, I don't think that I don't think there is a world in which Hasan Piker will certainly face criminal. I don't even think he'll face the civil penalties, and I don't think that he should either. I think the best thing that the United States could hope from something like this is just getting information out of Hasan about what happened.
Okay, and then the second question that we agree on is the reason he's being singled out from anyone else on this convoy is just because of how big he is, right?
The short answer is yes. The long answer is what is it? What does it mean that he's big? It's big that he has a lot of
The biggest
information. He has
influence.
a lot of connections. Um, so no, I don't think it has to do with his influence. I do think that it goes hand in hand with the fact that he knows so many people. He has access to so many people. He
That's
has
what
been
influence
privy to
is.
so many conversations. Well, and sure, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Wick.
Sure. Okay. $5 from It's Vishy. Thank you for the $5. I'm uncommitted on how I feel about this issue. I think Hassan and his side need to earn my vote. It's not on me to appease them. Thank you for the $5.
Good meme.
$2 from Bad Horse. This is for the Wick TV Yummy Ramen Fund. Well, appreciate
Hell
that.
yeah.
$2. We're gonna
Nice.
get it. Okay. $10 from Real Determinatus. The short answer is no. The long answer is maybe. If he genuinely can show contrition and a willingness to back the Democrats, no matter how much of a corporate neoliberal Zionist they are. Thank you for the
It's so
$10.
fucking stupid. Who cares? He could be a literal neo-Nazi. I'd be saying the same argument. Like, I don't care how anti-American they are. You shouldn't be punished and singled out by the American government for trying to do
Well-
something that I think is completely legitimate, which is deliver aid to a country that's being, embargoed to the point of starvation. Like, whatever. This is so silly.
Well, sure. I guess that brings me to my first question for you, Soy Pill, is a subpoena a punishment? If what Bishop
A
is
subpoena
saying
in and
is
of itself is not a
true.
punishment. You're looking at it in the context of why the government is doing it, how this is being made into a story, and whether or not this has a chilling effect on people that are trying to do similar things, which is, hey, the government's going to start looking into you if you do anything like this, instead of, hey, if they just said, look, we have some general concerns about what might have happened. These people are not in trouble. In fact, they are more than welcome to do this anytime they want. We just want to make sure that nothing, collusion went and happened. Like, even then, it might have some sort of chilling effect, but you can see the way this is being implemented is going after these people. And that's what I have an issue with. It's not just, we're just asking for information. It's, why is the government, the Trump government, looking into me and my, doings, where this was just some mission to deliver some food aid? Oh, it's because they want to appear as if they're cracking down on the crazy radical commie left. That's why I think this is happening.
$5 from True Striker. Soy Pill. Why do you assume there is no possible way he broke a law? There's
didn't
some
say that.
smoke. Maybe there's fire. There hasn't been an investigation yet.
I think there's a fair good chance that he broke the law, right? I think you violate sanctions if you give money to unapproved Cuban businesses. So if you bought a fucking sandwich from the wrong vendor, that might technically be breaking the law. What I think didn't happen is some crazy extrajudicial collusion that subverted American interest, instead of, oh, this guy might have gave some money to a business that wasn't approved. Who fucking cares? In the same way, who cares if someone went 55 in a 50 zone? But they're using that, like the Al Capone thing, to crack down on these sorts of people. That's what I have an issue with. Not, hey, maybe he did break the law, but I don't think that law is something that is enforced. There's a disparity at by which it's enforced. Clearly, with the Nick Shirley thing, it's pretty irrelevant to me.
Sure. $10.
Well,
oh, go ahead,
no,
please.
I was going to say, I think one of the biggest problems in the way that we're even trying to discuss this is that there's let's just say, a completely intentional, inaccurate way of describing what was going on there. Hassan Piker did not go to Cuba to deliver aid. Hassan Piker went to provide a show for his platform, which was political by nature. If it was just about aid, it would have been done entirely different. He wouldn't have spent the entire time talking about the political nature between the United States and Cuba's relationship. He would have just talked about aid and all of those things, and he would have intentionally kept it apolitical.
How can
This
you
was by
how can you
definition-
keep delivering aid apolitical? The aid needs to happen because of politics. That's a ridiculous statement. There's no such thing as apolitical aid. Why does the aid need to be delivered? Because of political sanctions.
Hold on.
that have
Well, let
happened
me ask you
for
this,
60
Michael.
years. That's a fucking
Do you
what
think
the
that
fuck?
there's a difference between me, if I find out someone needs a little help, and I DM them like, hey buddy, I heard you're having a tough time. Here's a hundo, right? I'm gonna give that to you. Do you
Yeah.
think there's a difference between that and then finding out someone needs help and then bringing them on my show and making a huge production out of, I know that, buddy, I know that you've been going through all this, and don't forget to like and subscribe, gang, right? And look at how generous I'm going to be with my meager means in giving this poor gentleman $100 out of my wallet, right? You see the difference
these are
between these two
different.
things?
But first of all, I think that Hassan probably lost money compared to just doing a normal stream when he was here. So I don't think this was so that he could make more money. I think he's trying to bring attention to something that he cares about, and the idea that like, oh, it's bad for you to investigate and talk to your millions of people audience as to why this is happening, why I need to go deliver aid, why my buddy needs $100 is completely relevant. Like, why would this not be something that you talk about? Like, guys, I don't want to make this political. I just have to give aid to Cuba, but I'm not going to tell you why. I'm just going to go do it. Like, that's fucking ridiculous.
Okay. $10 from Real Determinatus, and then I got a couple questions for Bishop when he gets his stuff
Sure.
back there today. $10
I'm just
from
gonna
Real
guess, please.
Determinatus. Soy pill. Hasan advocates for exactly what's happening to him when it happens to liberals. He doesn't get to demand liberal support when he spends his life trying to subvert and supplant liberalism.
Yeah, like I said, Hassan's a huge hypocrite. You can watch him, talk about, oh man, I hope they lock up Adam Schiff. You can say it's a joke. I don't really care if it's a joke. I think enough people in his audience don't think it's a joke. Maybe he would say like, oh good, the American government's going after Nick Shirley if like Obama had done this, right? I don't care. I don't care if he's unprincipled. I don't care if he's a hypocrite. Why should I change my principles because I don't want to see this happen to anyone? And if you're going to change your principles because this guy slighted you, then you're a little bitch. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you were I got sorry, my computer crashed when you were asking how could you deliver aid in a non-political way, and I would say almost the entire world of giving aid is non-political. When you look at organizations like Red Cross and various UN programs, almost all of them have very strict rules and regulations. I mean, you can't even join the Peace Corps if you've ever worked in American intelligence. Period. Just because your very presence in their organization would undo the whole operation. So the idea that, oh well, there's only one way to do it and it's a big political program that
No, I'm
stands at
not
odd
saying
with the
you can
entire.
deliver
Well,
you
no,
can
let me
deliver
finish,
aid
please, because I
apolitically.
know
I'm
Hold on, hold on.
acknowledging that.
Let Bishop finish. Let
I'm
Bishop
just
finish.
I'm cutting
Yeah.
to the chase. I'm agreeing with you, but okay.
So yeah, number one, the idea that it's somehow ridiculous that he made it political because it's all political it just stands at odd with the entire world of giving aid. And number two, if you agree with the fact that it was political, then we can start from that point and start analyzing it from a political project that was approved by the Cuban government, and then say, was it that big of a deal or not? Which I think you could make a very real argument, especially when you look at how the Cuban government is positioned. I think there's a really good argument that I happen to disagree with, that it was a pretty feckless a political project that might have even only took place with certain parts of the Cuban government that have to do with places like diplomacy and things like that, as opposed to more aggressive and problematic parts of the Cuban government. I think all of that is very realistic and very possible, but it is at least that. It is not just, oh, he's just a little employee of the Red Cross and all, and this is all about going after the doctors. It's not that.
Okay, so to be
Yeah.
clear, obviously you can not talk about politics when you deliver aid, but delivering that aid is always going to be political because there is a political reason why that aid is necessary. There's a sanction on the government from a different government. Now, that aid could theoretically say, look, we don't really have any statement as to why these sanctions are in place. We just care about human lives. This is totally possible. I'm aware that you could avoid talking about that conversation or having that conversation when you deliver this aid, and Hasan could have done this. But if a political streamer who opposes these sanctions is going to go deliver aid, there's no reason for him to just deliver the aid. I think this is ridiculous to say, oh yeah, no, like he should
He
just
had to
let
have
the Red Cross
sponsor,
go.
gang.
The reason he went is to bring attention to something that he politically disagrees with, which is, hey, these humanitarian like aids are necessary because of these stupid fucking sanctions. That was his opinion, right? So if you want to say,
Yes.
okay, yeah, he could have done this apolitically, yeah, so yeah, that's what the Red Cross does to a degree. Sometimes USAID was doing this, where it's like, hey, we're not really introducing American politics, but it was a effort of soft power, right? They're not telling you how to think.
Yeah, I didn't
but
mention
no matter
USAID.
Okay, well, I'm mentioning USAID. It's not
Yeah,
irrelevant here.
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Right. So the point is, yes, of course, you could technically not talk about politics, but the reason that these people go on this is to spread a message. But like, so what? Like, this aid is going to be political regardless. You're opposing a sanction. You're directly trying to undermine what that sanction is doing. It is political.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bishop, I have a couple questions for you.
Let's go.
Sure. So, does not one of the things you mentioned earlier is that we should view judicial actions by the Trump administration with some level of skepticism, and they should be uh, kind of gone over a little bit with more scrutiny than we would from a more legitimate administration. Does not the fact that they have selectively, at least is what it appears, selectively issued these subpoenas, uh, give evidence and credence to the fact that they they
Real quick, guys, I am on a laptop, but I have chat on my phone, so I can't always directly read it, but I am reading what you guys are saying. So hi, thank you for joining.
they put it on Fox News that this is merely the Trump's administration's version of a basically making a big show of it in order to
Mhm.
achieve their political ends. So they're not after justice. They're not after protecting our interests. They're making a show of it in order to hurt their political enemies. Does that not follow?
A little bit, but it brings you to the question: when you listen to what's going on, when you listen to what they're interested in and who they're subpoenaing, what the fuck does Nick Shirley know about Code Pink's financial backers? What does Nick Shirley know about this billionaire that lives in China that is financing all of these influence operations? What does Nick Shirley know about that? I mean, maybe Nick Shirley knows a lot about it, and therefore it is an injustice that he wasn't subpoenaed for this issue. But I don't think that's the case. So when we talk about is it selective? Yeah, it's selective. I don't think Nick Shirley was involved. I don't think he had the permissions. I don't think he had the access. I don't think he had the information that this organization had, and I don't think it's what they're interested in. I mean, to add to it, like on the flip side, I think that what we could meaningfully see on the other end of things, which by the way, we didn't see under Biden because liberals take this stuff a hell of a lot seriously than the ass clowns that we have in office right now, is we saw all of these big social media influencers. It turns out that they were connected to Russia, and it turns out that they were very deeply connected to a Russian influence operation. And instead of subpoenaing all of them, the Biden administration had the nerve, by the way, I'm criticizing this, had the nerve to say that they were victims, and they were caught in explicit lies where they were trying to communicate with these financial sources on Moscow time. And then they turn around and say, oh, I was trying to talk to him on Moscow time, but I didn't know he was Russian. The
Wait,
point of
to
this,
be clear, didn't the Trump administration throw this case out once they got into
yes,
office? You're
yes,
blaming
it's
the Biden
utterly ridiculous.
administration for they were investigating the Tenet Media employees, right? Lauren
I'm
Chen and her
blaming the
husband.
Biden and I'm blaming the Biden administration for not taking it as seriously as the Trump administration is apparently taking this situation in Cuba. And by the way, I think the Biden administration should have taken it a whole hell of a lot more seriously than this situation that we have in Cuba right now. But my point is, I'm drawing moral equivalence, and I am also pointing out the fact that the different political parties are handling them wildly differently. I think they're all very serious.
Okay. General Grievous for $5. With much love to Soy Pill, this mission had no major impact like the Gaza flotilla. It was optics, and it did more harm stealing power for his hotel.
Stealing power for his hotel. I'm not quite sure about that, but didn't they deliver 20 tons of aid? Was that all just burned? I have no idea the
I don't
extent to
know.
which that's at all valid. I don't think so, but maybe.
Okay, Bishop, one more question for you then.
Yo yo.
Given the fact that they are taking it, so I guess if the subpoena comes out and they question Hassan Piker, at what point would you consider it illegitimate, right? Like, so obviously you don't consider necessarily, on the face of it, subpoenaing Hassan Piker to be an illegitimate use of our judicial system or of our investigative time. What would make it so in your mind? Like, what would they need to do?
Sure.
What steps would they need to take to be like, okay, this is too much. They're going too far. This is obviously just a political attack.
Yeah. I think uh, to tell you the truth, I find it so hard to believe that something like that is even possible, even if it was something that they wanted to do, because I'm
Oh, hold on, hold
constantly,
on. Just to be clear, you
yeah,
find it so hard and impossible to believe that the Trump administration would use the judicial system in order to target their political enemies without
no,
care for the law?
that's not what I'm saying. I mean, I don't think a very entertaining answer is if they murdered somebody and put the person's foot in Hassan's gym bag and then framed him for murder, that would be wrong. Like, yes, if they specifically trumped up something that he clearly didn't do and then charged him and like punished him for something that he clearly didn't do, that would be wrong. But I think that the realistic version that we would be trying to parse out would look a lot more gray than that.
One of the
Well, wait,
problems I'm
wait, quick.
having.
Let me ask
Go ahead.
then. Let's look at the stuff they have done. Do you think them going after Letitia James was legitimate, or do you think that was a trumped up charge? No pun
Sorry,
intended.
what was the what was the
Like
charge
when
with
they go
Letitia
after
James again?
some of these like political opponents, and it's for like mortgage fraud, and it might actually
Yeah,
be
yeah,
actual mortgage fraud. Don't get me wrong. I bet if you look into this,
yeah,
there might be some I that they didn't dot or some T they didn't cross, right? But do
yeah.
you think these are legitimate reasons to go after and try to prosecute them with the DOJ?
Do I think that there are legitimate reasons to prosecute them with the DOJ?
Yeah.
The short answer, I mean, do I think it's legitimate for them to go after? Yes. Do I think that it's more political than anything else? Yeah,
Then why is it
obviously.
legitimate?
And do I think that the fact that it's political
Wait.
leads us?
Why is it
Well,
legitimate?
let me get this out.
Okay.
And the reason why it is, do I think that the fact that it is clearly political is more important than the fact that it might be justified because they actually broke the law? Yes, I do think it is more important. For example, whenever they arrest a politician for corruption, the question is, why the fuck are they arresting him for corruption? Because they're all corrupt. They're all doing this stuff. They're all getting away with it. So why is this specific person being targeted? And so I think that's the question. So your question is, why do I think that it's legitimate? I think it's legitimate because we have a endemic of people in positions of power and authority not being held responsible for the crimes that they commit, and it's utterly ridiculous. And anybody who peers the curtain back and starts looking at what the actual history of these people are, and you could throw a dart at any of them, and whoever it hits, they're going to have some skeletons in their closet. And I think that we overwhelmingly turn a blind eye at it because that's what power does.
Okay, but then you do think it's legitimate to go after Letitia James for mortgage fraud because they're an opponent to the administration, or not? Because apparently all
Do I?
politicians are corrupt. So as long as they find something that's worth going after and technically breaks the law, they should do it, right? That's what I'm hearing.
So yeah. So the short answer is no. The long answer is when is enough enough? And when are we in a position in which our government can say enough is enough? And I feel like
well, I think we're not when
in a
you have to drum up
utopian-
charges that clearly get thrown out by a
So-
bunch of different judicial systems because they're so clearly illegitimate, and you're just doing it because these people oppose your political project. That no, not every politician is so corrupt that you can just find anything. Oh, you can indict a hand sandwich, so it's okay. No, there's clearly things that people do that are against certain processes. But this idea that everyone is so evil that as long as you want to, you can definitely get a real, legitimate corruption charge on every single politician is just not true. There are people that are way worse and doing way more corrupt things that are so far beyond the pale of what we're used to, like Trump taking billions of dollars and using it to bail out January 6ers, right? That's so much more corrupt than Letitia James maybe filed a mortgage paper wrong.
Can I just ask you a question then, Soy Bill, right?
Yeah.
Say the subpoena happens. Is there any amount of information that could come out of the subpoena would you change your mind on this? Where you would be
of
like,
course.
oh,
If it turned out there was a credible whistleblower that came out from the convoy and was like, Hasan Piker was selling state secrets to Cuba. Like, whether or not you agree with what we're doing with the Cuban embargo, if he's unironically like using, like, you know, subverting American intelligence agencies like to a significant degree, if he's making sure that they can like do some back channel like embargo, like millions of dollars worth of trade, yeah, sure. If that's what you really think happened, I think that's insane. But if it did, that could be the case. I don't think it is. And if it was, I would say, okay, well, maybe this is like starting to get way beyond what we think is, you know, some sort of, oh, he just wanted to deliver aid or bring attention to this. It was like, okay, holy shit, he's acting as like a foreign agent. He's violating the FARA. Like, yeah, but I don't think that's the case here. So yeah, there is a limit, of course.
So see, and I think that's fundamentally where you and I stand on a different stance. Is I feel like your perspective, and feel free to correct me. I feel like your perspective is that whatever potential, whether it be zero or a lot, whatever potential collaboration that Hasan has, about his political programming in coordination with the Cuban government, it just isn't very important. And from my perspective, I think that it's like extremely important for us to understand exactly how specifically nation state actors are influencing the political programming within our society. I think that's true. I think that's like a million more times true for people that we're potentially getting ready to go into military conflict with.
Can you lay out the hypothetical that you think might be happening here that's influencing Hasan Piker in the United States?
Yeah.
This specifically happened on this convoy and not through literally any other means of communication?
Yeah, I think Swan Marcus broke it down in a really plausible and reasonable way. I think that there is a very strong possibility that one of Hasan Piker's political confidants it works with or for the Cuban intelligence apparatus, whether they are employed directly as a Cuban James Bond, most likely not. They are probably receiving tasking from a Cuban intelligence officer who essentially organizes that tasking through that individual that is a political confidant of Hasan and collaborates with Hasan in how to work that into what Hasan says about Cuba. And furthermore, the fact that it is very likely that Hasan recently hired a PR firm to address whether or not he should be integrated into the Democratic Party more puts him very deeply involved in American politics. And I think the idea that we don't even need to investigate, like that's not even we're not even allowed to have
What
a
does that have to do with the
curiosity
convoy?
about that. The fact that he was there in person and was able to collaborate with them a lot more extensively. What do you mean?
What you can investigate his connections to all of these things without specifically going after his convoy
No,
mission,
hold on.
right?
But just to translate, what he's saying is that he went there directly so they could talk in person, so we could not monitor communications in the normal ways we would monitor those communications. So we subpoena him to figure out if when he was there in person, they had any conversation or he made any connections that we could not track with our normal intelligence apparatus. That's, I think, what he's saying. Is that a correct?
Yeah, I mean, all Hasan would have to do is sit down at a bar next to his friend who works as a doctor in the Cuban medical apparatus, and just have a conversation at a bar about how
You
to
don't think he could do that in America?
Well, are you saying that we should just have unrestrained
No, I'm just saying
yeah.
clearly
Hold on,
this
wait,
exact
wait,
same
wait, you're
conversation could
harder
happen
to
at a bar in
track it.
America. The idea that this entire thing was so we could have a secret conversation with the Cuban government that would otherwise be monitored in an American bar, like I'm this is like this crazy James Bond story we're drawing up here. That is like this is why he needs to be investigated, and this
Hold
seems
on, this
ridiculous to
isn't
me.
crazy.
Not at
This
all.
happens all the time.
This is how it works.
This is how
what
it works. Like,
happens.
hold on.
You couldn't do that in
you're making it
America.
out like, hold on, stop. You're making it out as if this is some like wild conspiracy that's out there. No, look, I worked in military intelligence.
Mhm.
This happens constantly, all the time.
Sure. I'm aware. No, I'm aware this happens.
isn't even
The
abnormal.
idea that this is why we need to investigate the flotilla, and not, hey, this is what. First of all, I don't think this is why we should go after Hasan, but this would seem to be justification to investigate this guy and everything he does. Right? Every conversation he has with everyone at every restaurant, at every bar. Why is it that somehow he would only be able to get this information or have this information conveyed to him in Cuba after doing this flotilla mission? And if it was that fucking secret, why wouldn't he just go to Cuba and not broadcast it? Like this is this like weird, insane, like, you know, trumped up spy story to me. This seems really ridiculous.
See, this is, I mean, once again, I think that this just speaks to the fact that you really just don't understand how this stuff works.
Okay,
And
well, explain it to me then.
as Wick is saying, the likelihood that this didn't happen is certainly below 50%. Like,
Okay.
no, I mean, so let me get this straight. So your position is that during Hasan's time in Cuba, between all of between any times he spent in bars or at parties or in conversations around a table with a coffee and a sandwich, you're telling me that you think it is most likely that he didn't talk to anyone connected to the Cuban military?
No, he might have.
I mean, well, I don't think he might have. I think the likelihood that didn't happen is almost 0%. I think it's almost 0%. And
So
so
what?
the
Do you think it's in
question,
America's interest to find out maybe what he communicated with about this.
Which, by the way,
No.
the American
You don't think that's
government.
and hold on, you don't think it's in our interest
See,
to know what a influencer who is involving himself and trying to involve himself with American politics had to say to a hostile foreign government?
Not necessarily.
You
It
don't think
depends
that's
on
the
it
in
depends on
America's
it
interest
depends
to
on what
know?
information you think is being conveyed. And I'm still again trying to
Political
find out the
programming.
distinction between him doing this in Cuba and getting the exact same information from any other contact that the Cuban has in America.
I'll tell you the difference. I think the difference is that our laws have created a way in which we legally and societally find it a lot more acceptable to investigate things that people do overseas than the things that they do in their backyard.
Why
I
is
think
that?
that people, because I think that there is something more nefarious about going to a hostile island where we know that there are all these serious problems with the government that's run there, and having a political program there as opposed to getting a drink in your backyard. I think those are two very different things. And I think
Why?
that
If the
is the
same
big difference
information can
between
be
you and me.
conveyed in both of these places, right? So why is one different?
Well, I mean, the same information can't necessarily be conveyed in different ways. There might be all
Why not?
sorts of sanctions against Cuban individuals. It might be very hard for Cuban intelligence to arrive safely in the United States and arrange a face-to-face with somebody of that profile. I think that there might be people that. I mean, what kind of a question is that? I mean, we have outrageously serious filters for people that live in Cuba trying to get to the United States and vice versa. Like, of course, it's going to be easier for him to have
We literally
access
we like
to
did
these
not Trump
people.
Trump literally reinstated like wet foot dry foot. You get here, you're a citizen immediately. First of all, so if you just like get on a fucking boat and step in Florida, bam, you're an American citizen. Go talk to Hasan now. But also, what he can't just signal like the intelligence community can't
What
signal
would be
chat
the value?
someone in
Still answer
America
this for me.
and be
You're-
like,
Still-
all right, there you go. There's the information we
Hold on,
wanted to convey to
still-
you. But he had to
still
go all the
answer
way to
for
Cuba
me.
to get this in a bar. That's just very confusing to
Yes,
me.
because a lot of Cuban officials, if they were to come to the States,
Why
or
does the
first of
official
all-
have to
first
meet
of all,
with him
let me just tell
personally?
you this. Hold on, just listen, please. If one of these Cuban military officials or government officials, if they're communicating electronically, we got that. We're going to track it. There's ways we can find out what's being said, how they're saying it, who they're saying it to. We can listen in on their conversations. We got that. Okay? In a
Okay,
very
so
real way.
there's no way for
Hold
them
on,
to
hold
hide
on,
those
let me finish,
communications.
let me
I'm
finish.
questioning. I'm just to clarify. There's no way for them to hide any internet communications from the American government.
It's much, much harder. It's
Okay.
much, much more difficult. I won't say there's no way, but it's much, much harder, much more difficult. Even that's why a lot of the important conversations these people have aren't over electronics. It
Mhm.
is face to face, and it's much easier and safer to arrange a face to face meeting in your own backyard, in a place where it is the hostile nation's territory.
Why is it
And
safer?
I think that it is in America's interest.
Why is it
and-
safer, Wick?
Because I want to be clear. I came into this conversation on Hasan's side here, being like, this subpoena seems wildly crazy. Like, this is way too much. But the argument the Bishop's making here is just true, right? That it's
Yes,
worth
all of this is
asking the
technically
question,
possible, but
what did
again,
you talk about?
hey Wick,
Who did you talk about with?
why is it
How
safer?
long did you have this
Can I-
conversation?
Why is it safer, Wick? Why is it safer in
Can I
Cuba?
paint a picture real
Wait,
quick?
Bishop, I want
Because
Wick to answer.
in America, we have the ability. Okay, that's just how signal intelligence works. We have the ability to track. We have assets in place that can follow these people. If we track who comes into the country, and if they send one of their agents into the country, we know who most of them are. We can track them. We got people following them. We got all these spy shit, right?
Okay.
That's what we do. It's not a movie shit. Like, we have much less ability to do that in hostile territory. We just have less ability
No,
to
I understand
project
that.
our intelligence
Right.
gathering.
We might not
right? We
have
just-
the ability to record stuff. So
Yes.
what would then subpoenaing Hasan do?
Well, Hasan probably, I would say Hasan is pretty happy with what he has going right now. And he is pretty happy with his own political programs that he has going right now. And if I had to guess, I would bet Hasan doesn't feel the need to get involved with any kind of dirty political programs that he doesn't want to. I mean, he's a millionaire. He's doing very well. It seems like his career is going largely in a positive direction. I would wager it is not in Hasan's interest to become hoodwinked by a hostile intelligence operation. And by the way, I really want to paint a picture for you of just like a person that exists that might really explain to you what Wick and I are trying to say. So this is a person that certainly exists within Cuba, within probably all countries, but certainly Cuba. So there is a man in Cuba that is a doctor, and he has been trained in how to be a medical doctor. And on top of that, he was also trained within what we like to call medical intelligence. And medical intelligence is a specific application of medicine in which you are trained in how to use your position as a caregiver to use that authority over people into getting information out of them. A really good example of this is American Special Forces medics in Afghanistan, where they would be treating local farmers, and while they're treating their twisted ankle, they'd start saying, "Oh yeah, have you had the Taliban go through your backyard?" And typically the farmer would say, "Fuck no, I'm not telling you anything. They'll cut my head off." But because they're at a very weak position and they're being treated by somebody, they're going to be psychologically pressured into answering those questions. And so that man, as a doctor, he exists in Cuba, and he's been highly trained on this. He knows how to do it. It's his entire job. And there's many of these guys, and a lot of them are on head charts. They're on little documents and little files, and on those head charts, they are in sanctions lists. And when they fly to the United States of America, either one, they're denied entry because they're official intelligence officers, or two, when they arrive in the country, they immediately fall under surveillance.
And I'm sorry, could we land the plane? And so we were scared of Hasan learning secret ankle twisting techniques to get out of Americans. What is the issue here?
See, once again, I don't think that you're even trying to like honestly engage with the
I have
nature
no
of
idea
this.
where you're going with this point. I'm getting distracted.
Well, you're like really concerned about like why on earth would spies be more active in their homeland as opposed to the hostile territory of the United States?
Oh my God. No.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I'm saying, what information could you possibly be giving to Hasan Piker in Cuba that he couldn't get in America? Not, of course, it's easier to have these. What political programming?
I mean, very specific,
like a pro-Cuba narrative. Do you think he didn't already have that?
Very specific very specific people to talk to, topics to talk to, and targets to hit at specific times for the purposes of intelligence. I mean, what if they were trying to get information out of him? What if they were trying to get information out of him regarding other programs that he's on? What do you mean, like what?
Like what is the okay?
What do
just
you
to be clear, I want to point out
how
how ridiculous. I don't lack imagination, but to be clear, the imagination that we're putting onto this to be like, and this is why. Like, I have this entire James Bond fucking novel of Hasan, who I think everyone here acknowledges is fucking retarded, but he's actually also a super spy who has all this important information on American subversion, and we have to have these backroom intelligence information exchanging meetings in Cuban hotels that we have to investigate, and the Trump administration is very, very, very concerned in this, but not, by the way, with Russia doing the same thing because they threw out the Tenet media case. It's specifically the Cuban government. Like, this is so ridiculous. Like, how many levels of imagination deep are we right now just to justify, and this is why we're going after this fucking political influencer? This is insane to me. Like, maybe this all happened. Show me one piece of evidence, please.
Well, like, do you have any idea what people spy on each other for? Like, are you clueless? Like, are you stupid?
Tell me,
like,
tell me all about all the spying.
Well, I mean, seriously,
stuff.
like, what do you
seriously tell me? Tell me about it.
Do you think that, like, I'll tell you, I mean, it's plain and simple. A lot of it is politics. A lot of it is knowing political things about political programs that are going on, people that are working on collaborations.
Who's talking to who, right?
Yeah.
Hasan might he might not even know he's being used, right? He might not even know he's being used. But if on his subpoena we ask and we find, like, okay, well, what did they ask you when they were over there? And we find out that they were questioning him about, like, oh, which Democrats have you been talking to? Oh, what have you been talking to them
like
about?
The ones on his stream.
Who's interested in you? Yeah, who collaborates with you? Who are other people that we can reach out to for support? I mean, here's a question that I'm curious, and I genuinely mean this. Why do you think the Russians were paying Tim Pool hundreds of thousands of dollars per episode?
Because if enough people are opposed to America granting aid to Ukraine and they vote for people that won't vote for those packages because they watch Tim Pool or any of these other people, then Ukraine won't get aid and Russia will have an easier time winning the war.
So it appears like you're being a little bit more dishonest than you are being stupid, because I know that you can just apply that answer that you understand to the Cuban situation, right?
So Hasan might have had conversations with Cuban officials, and in doing so, they will influence him to be pro-Cuba, which he already is, by the way. So, like, if they're going to subpoena him to wonder if the Cuban government is paying him to have these pro-Cuban things, which is funny because, I mean, this guy is just an open Marxist-Leninist, which is what Castro's whole deal was. So the idea that, like, he's being paid to do it and not just, yeah, this guy kind of already approves of these things is a little silly to me. But we specifically have to subpoena him specifically for meeting in this place to find out if this is indeed the way that he's shaping narratives to make other people anti-Cuban embargo, which, by the way, was a fucking Obama centrist Democrat position in 2008. So like what is the, like, this is all like so deep into the speculation of what could happen, and you've drilled down into this very specific scenario where maybe this subpoena might be justified, where there's a much more obvious thing, which is, hey, the government really doesn't like these fucking people and they're trying to chill affect them. And okay, maybe there's a justified reason, which, by the way, I already granted that there could be a scenario where this happens, but the level of speculation that you have to go, and you're like, oh, you're so incredulous. No, this could happen, but is that really why this is happening? You really think that there's like some sort of credible whistleblower, there's some sort of credible evidence that that's what's happening and that's why we have to go after Zahn? Is that what we're believing right now? Like,
okay,
could you show me like a single, even like remotely close to this, justifying the subpoena?
A subpoena to get information that the U.S. has interest in is not necessarily going after Hasan.
Oh,
It is not necessarily an attack. It could be.
Why do you think Fox News published this article before he was served?
That it might be so, right?
Wick.
But I think that hold on. I think that there is a very good argument that Bishop has made, and now I'm on his side, right? That there is absolutely useful intelligence that we could gather if we suspect, as probably is the case, Cuba is trying to influence our politics, or if, as I think Bishop said earlier, that there is another target that we just want to know from Hasan, what questions did they ask you while you were there?
Hey,
and
Wick.
so that gives us puzzle pieces that we could use to put together to see how they are interacting with other
there's
actors,
a scenario where this
financiers,
makes
all these
sense.
things.
I
Those are all
agree.
good.
Do you trust that the Trump administration is doing that in good faith because they just want to find
No.
out those pieces? Okay, cool.
I do not.
Hey,
but
Wick,
I don't,
if the Trump administration came out right now and said, I am subpoenaing Wick TV and Dylan Burns because they did something in Ukraine where they talk to people that have connections with the Ukrainian government, do you think this would be a legitimate subpoena? They're just trying to ask questions.
If I went to China and I did a stream and met with Chinese government officials,
if I change the hypothetical to be different from what I just asked, can you answer my question first?
Expected that they would question me.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Ukraine is not a hostile government.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's like a serious understatement of our relationship with Cuba. People talk about Cuba. Oh, it's just Cuba. Like, no, like Cuba, they tried to host weapons to genocide us, man. Like they're continuing
talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, exactly. The point is, like, you think this stuff doesn't matter anymore, and it does to the governments. That's, I mean, like, here's like,
why do you think Obama tried to reverse all these things?
Because I think Obama was trying to lead things out of out of the Cold War era. There was that great reset where George W. Bush tried to reset things with Vladimir Putin personally. There's a major attempt to change these things and to bring things to the end. And yes, I do believe that that's the much better way to do it. I believe that the confrontational way that Trump is doing it right now, not only do I think it's bad, not only do I think it's just like a horrible way to go about it, I think the reason he's going about it is because he thinks if he does some kind of major action with Cuba, it's going to be some kind of a good legacy for him. And I don't think he's just like hard-headed about it or stupid about it. I think he has this ulterior motive that he's like trying to annex territory or something, which is significantly worse than being stupid. So don't get me wrong, that's where I'm going with things. But I mean, essentially, I feel like you're trying to say like, oh, well, Bishop, your perspective on this is like all of this big time James Bondy stuff. But what I'm trying to tell you is that, like, from my perspective, your position is, yes, the government has subpoenaed. They haven't charged him with anything. They've subpoenaed Hasan about this very let's say pesky trip to Cuba, because it required a lot of documentation, right? Like anything where you're having to get things cleared with the US government, it's certainly going to be a little heavy. So they're going to inquire with him about this heavy trip to Cuba. And it's either because they think that there might be something that happened with the Cuban government that concerns the FBI, or the FBI is just being mean.
When you say being mean, could you steel man what I'm saying on that second or? What do you mean being mean?
Yeah. By being mean, you're like, oh well, the whole point is for them to by issuing the subpoena, effectively what it's going to do is it's going to apply a chilling effect so that other leftist streamers won't go on more Cuban government sanctioned political programs to the island. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I that doesn't really strike me. Why didn't they do that to all the other streamers that were on that trip? Because they didn't. And some of the other streamers that were on that trip are pretty big.
They picked the biggest ones, which was Hasan, right?
Well, the
one who is the biggest and loudest voice. Well, I don't know how big Code Pink is, but the biggest one.
So why did they do Hasan and not the other people that are pretty big?
That's my question.
My answer is because they probably weren't at that specific bar with that specific intelligence.
Do you know that?
No, but I mean, do you?
So you're just wildly speculating as to why they're picking Hasan. I'm saying there's probably a pretty good reason. Yes, you literally had to make up. He was at a bar with this specific intelligence officer. You have no idea if that's true. My answer is they've already shown a pattern of going after the biggest people.
Or speculation. Hold on.
Okay, and one of them is completely made up, Wick, and the other is on a precedent of the past 3 years or 2 years of Trump.
Do you think
so? I'm sorry. Which of these has more credibility?
Trying to use its intelligence resources to affect American politics?
No, of course there is, Wick.
There's decades of it.
Well, that's weird. Why didn't they try to do that with any of the other people on the convoy, Wick?
How do you know they didn't?
Well, I don't. Maybe we should subpoena all of them. Why didn't we?
Because there's
why didn't we subpoena Nick Shirley, who was in an unsanctioned hotel, Wick?
That we don't know.
No, they don't know. They're subpoenaing Wick. How would they know? It's so much easier to have these meetings there, right? We don't know. Who could say?
That's possible. But it's equally possible. I have just as much evidence.
You have just as much evidence?
Serious. Yes.
Where's your evidence for? Here's my evidence. The Trump administration has been cracking down on anyone speaking up against them, including late night talk show hosts, including people in the government, including influencers. And your evidence is, well, Cuba obviously has interests opposed, so they could have done this, but they specifically did it with this person.
Cuba has done this for decades. They have tried to use their intelligence apparatus.
Hey, why didn't they do it with Nick Shirley? He's stupid and influential.
This is something they've done.
Wick, why didn't they do it with Nick Shirley? Why didn't they do it with Nick Shirley? He was in an wait, I didn't ask you, Bishop. I'm asking Wick. He was in an unsanctioned hotel. It would have been really easy.
Less likely to have any.
Shouldn't we check?
With Nick.
Wait, I don't have any evidence as to whether or not that's true. Maybe they tried. Should we check?
$1,000 right now.
Wick, should we check?
Nick Shirley came
Wick,
back
should
from
we check?
Cuba, he probably had the FBI go through his electronics, right, just to see if they got bugged or anything like that. I can't tell you that. But no, this is what they do. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like fundamentally this is what it comes down to, and this is what I hope you understand. And it shouldn't sound like this, but I really hope you understand that this isn't a dig at you at all. But like the way this intelligence stuff works, there is no James Bond. There never has been a James Bond. Intelligence has never looked like that. It was all lies about World War II that gave birth to the idea that intelligence was James Bond. What intelligence looks like is just a fucking guy coming up to you in a bar and starting up a conversation with you and just eliciting responses. If you work in the steel industry, he's going to start talking about steel industry stuff, and then all of a sudden you're going to say that you're a CFO and blah 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 blah, and that's how it works. And it's not big. It doesn't have to be the nuclear codes.
I'm
I
not
mean,
saying this stuff doesn't happen. I think you're confused as to what my opposition is. My opposition is not this stuff could be transferred this way. My opposition is not this stuff could be investigated for legitimate reasons. My opposition is there's a clear reason why I think they're going after these specific people in this specific context for this specific trip. And I don't think it's this very plausible thing that maybe this happened with intelligence and Hasan. It's why did they target this specific person on this trip for this specific trip, and had an article that came out before he was even like issued the subpoena targeting and centering around this person where they were outside his house taking photos of him. That to me sounds a lot more like a political hit piece against large influencers who are opposing the Trump admin, and not, hey guys, here's a very real scare which you have drummed up to the point where Wick can be like, well, that could happen, and I agree it could, but is that really the most likely scenario here? And are you just ignoring everything else in context of this? That's what I'm opposed to. Not that, oh, intelligence could be transferred this way, which is obviously true.
Well, I think a really great question that, frankly, I've done this conversation a disservice and not hammering home more, is a good question is, why are they also going after Code Pink, a super pro-Russian outlet that is like super anti-Ukrainian and super worked into all of that tenant media collaborations and stuff? Why?
I don't know that
Because
Code Pink worked with Tenant Media. Can you tell me about this?
they didn't work with Tenant Media, but they share a lot of the influencers, and they share a lot of the programs, and they share a lot of connections to that space because they're politically connected through those veins of the, like, what do they say, in the anti-war left, in the context of Ukraine, right, where it's like, oh, we're anti-war, we want to end the war, in parentheses, on Russia's terms.
Okay.
But once again, when you're like, oh, well, you're speculating, you're right. We don't know. I don't know. Why didn't they subpoena every single person on that trip if they wanted to chill, right? Because if your goal is to get everybody to go, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to speak out. Then you should want to see, oh, wow, they went after every single person that went on that trip, as opposed to people being able to say, well, I'm not Hasan Piker. I mean, look, 25 people went on that trip. Only one person was subpoenaed, and the organization that put it together. I'm not a billionaire living in China. Why the fuck does this concern me?
That
I
seems like an argument in my favor. Maybe they do want to single out people that already have legitimate criticisms from people like me or you or other liberals, so that those people will actually let them get away with testing the waters of going after their political opponents, just as long as it's not them and who people that agree and are on my team, right? Don't you think that would be an argument in my favor?
So it's not about chilling?
That is a chilling effect. What do you mean?
Well, it's not a chilling.
It's a chilling effect for the people that agree and are aligned with him. For the idiots who are like, well, this is fine because I think he's a hypocrite and whatever, I'm fine with him doing that. Those people might not be chilled. And then later, when it starts happening to them, then the center and more center, not left people are going to be like, that's fine. Those people are opposed and those people are hypocrites. And then they creep and creep and creep until they start doing this to everyone that opposes them, and they only have their little hug box like MAGA fucking circle jerk, right?
I guess this is just a place where you and I don't quite see down that same line. From my point of view, I think that if the purpose was chilling effect, then you would just go for maximum damage. What I think is much more likely in your vein of things is that it was for a popcorn headline. It's like, oh, I'm going to be able to, what doesn't make news? All of these no-name streamers. What does make a Fox News headline? Is going after a household name that is winding up in
So wait, are you agreeing with my whole point then? That this was meant to drum up like a big yellow journalism story?
I certainly think that was a factor, but I mean, I've never posited that it was all or nothing, and I don't think that that's the case.
Okay, wait, so then maybe we agree. This was meant to drum up all this support against a person that everyone already hates and could be a big focal point to try to sensationalize this. And we agree that there is a possibility that this person might have communicated with intelligence officials in Cuba, right?
I don't think that it is a binary. I
didn't say those two things were not mutually exclusive. I just said two non-contradictory statements.
Well, the phrasing that you were using, and maybe I'm just being a little belligerent here, but the phrasing that you were using was it was to drum up a headline with yellow journalism. Mm-hmm. And maybe it was a problem. And the way I'm seeing is, I think that decisions to do this are always seen as political. And so a decision was made. When you've got a lead like this, it's got to get through legal. And then it's got to get through executive review. And then it's got to get through fucking everybody. And at some point in time, there is a gaggle of people that sit down and says, let's add the pros and the cons. Is this worth it or not? And perhaps, and this might be your entire, like, justifies your entire position. Perhaps the only factor that made it worth it to them to pursue this subpoena was that they thought it would be good press for their program. Perhaps that's a possibility.
I think it's a majority factor, to be clear. I'm not saying it's the only reason.
Sure.
It's pretty clear that this is why they're doing it. But like in the same way, you can go after illegal immigrants and say, look, they broke the law. It's like, okay, but what are we really trying to do here? We're trying to make a spectacle about deporting people. We don't really give a shit that guy who has lived here for 20 years and has a legitimate business is also happened to be someone who crossed the border illegally 20 years ago. We want him the fuck out of the country. We want to make a spectacle of ICE going into this building and throwing them the fuck out. Like, okay, yeah, technically they broke the law, but...
Thank you for the 5 gifted subs on Twitch, Anachu. Anachu, I appreciate you. Thank you for that. But I guess the problem I'm having with your argument here, Soypil, is that I think that you're overselling the possibility. I think that this is like an isolated demand for rigor. That you think that we need all this evidence for our suppositions, which I agree is just speculation, right? And the
Wick, if you were the one doing this, I would put the threshold way lower, but we're agreeing this is the Trump admin who has a precedent of doing this for completely bullshit reasons against their political opponents, right?
But Cuba also has a precedent for doing the things that they're being accused of here.
Who cares?
I care. I care a lot.
Who cares in the context of looking at the motivations of the administration doing it?
Because for me, that it makes it much more likely that there is a legitimate reason. Whereas if it was Ukraine or if it was France or Britain or somewhere else that was like an ally country or just a neutral country, then I would be much, much more on your side.
Okay,
but
why did Trump throw out the Tenet Media case?
Hold on. A hostile country that we have decades of conflict with, right? Then I'm like, okay, there might be some meat here that we would actually want.
Okay, to be clear, you think I'm underselling, and the only thing that convinced your mind was a very specific, completely baseless speculation from Bishop that took 30 minutes to go. It is baseless. It's 100% baseless because you don't have any evidence that it happened. You have zero evidence that it happened. It's baseless, right?
I actually no. The evidence that we have that it happened is that Hasan said that a government intermediary reached out to him and reached out to his people to work out a system for him to have, what was the term? It was something along the lines of consistent internet access. So as a fact of life, we know that there is a direct communication between a government official and Hasan specifically. Not even the
this clandestine intelligence operation relied on him not telling the entire planet on a live stream that this happened. This is what we're using as our base right now. Oh, he told everyone about it. Is the speculation that Hasan is too stupid to make the intelligence operation work, right?
So what you're telling me is that there's no connection at all between Hasan and the Cuban government. That's what you're saying.
That's not what I said. Can you answer my question? What was my question? I'm
sorry. What was your question?
What was my question, Bishop?
I just asked you.
So the base that you are, this is actually has much more than just my speculation is, there actually was potentially a secret communication between Hasan and the intelligence operation. We know this because he went on a live stream in front of the entire planet and told us about it. That's the thing that we're saying is their clandestine secret exchange of information.
Well, essentially every single conversation that he had that wasn't live streamed on Cuba was a secret conversation. So let's just cut the snark out there. I mean,
okay. It seems like there's constantly secret conversations happening in Cuba. Maybe we should be subpoenaing literally everyone.
Yes, you should expect to be questions when you get back from a trip to a hostile nation.
I'm aware of that. Yes, I know.
The U.S. government to ask you questions.
And same thing when you go through Iran. Same thing when you go through any of these like no-fly list countries. I'm aware that they all ask you questions, but you're acting as if this is like, here's the specific scenario where the Cuban government is funneling this information campaign through this guy, and we're pretty sure this definitely could have happened. Therefore, we need to subpoena this specific influencer.
That's possible.
I didn't say it wasn't
enough that it justifies in my mind, potentially subpoenaing the guy
Okay.
to bring him in
And
and ask
Wick,
him a few
Yeah.
questions.
which is more likely that happened and we need to look into it, or that the Trump administration is trying to crack down on people that are opposing
In
him?
my mind, it's a coin toss.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah. Yeah,
It just is.
the
Just
thing
get on
you
your dick
gotta
and,
realize,
and get on your knees and suck Trump's dick, dude. This is fucking ridiculous.
these are
Say this, but
subpoenas like this
I don't
happen
know, man.
frequently.
Like, are
they
you
just
in
don't always
pay
make
with
the
the
news.
Cuban government right now?
I
don't
wish they
know.
would give me
You're
some money to say
undercover.
that these sanctions are stupid. It's been 60 years and they haven't done shit, and it's ridiculous that they try to
They
undo
haven't not
the.
done shit.
What is the justification for the sanctions on Cuba today?
See, this is the issue, is that fundamentally you have an issue with the idea that the Cuban government is hostile. What were
I
you,
didn't.
how
Can
did
you answer my
specifically
question?
frame that
What
question?
is
Yeah,
the
what was
what
the
is the
question?
issue with the Cuban government that these sanctions are justified today?
The sanctions are justified today because Cuba consistently conducts hostile intelligence and military operations against the United States at home and abroad. As of right now,
Why do they do that?
There are thousands of Cubans right now fighting against against Ukraine and United States intelligence assets in Ukraine.
Okay, why are they
Thousands
doing that? Yeah,
right
but
now.
why are they doing that? Is it just because they hate
They're
us?
doing that. No, they're doing that because they are aligned with an axis of countries that are hostile towards us.
Why are they aligned with the axis of countries that are hostile to us?
Because they decided to have a communist revolution and they aligned with that axis of the world.
Yeah, they had a Marxist-Leninist come to power and do some authoritarian dictatorial stuff. They fell on the wrong side of the Truman Doctrine. We tried to coup their government and fuck with their country, so they really don't like us. We consistently make it so their country suffers, specifically right after the Soviet Union fell, and they had no trade partners, but whether it was us or the USSR, from like 91 to 94. And now it's like, okay, now we're still fucking over your country in the 20s, instead of trying to do what Obama did, by the way, which was just restore these sort of relations because they wasn't justified, and maybe we don't need to do it. And I don't know, I think also this has to do with a lot of stuff regarding like Cuban sugar, regarding Cuban voting populations in Florida, which is a swing state, and the idea that this is like they're evil and they hate us and that's why we need to do this. I think it's just ridiculous, like McCarthyism, since this is just not the
Did
case.
you know
It
that,
hasn't
like,
been the case for
this
like
is
30
just
years.
3 months ago. 3 months ago, off the coast of Florida, there was a shootout between Cuban forces and 4 Cuban exiles. Like, there was a shootout. There's an active.
Yeah,
Wow, that's crazy.
one of the main things. This is one of the main things that Cuban intelligence is interested in the United States. The number one thing is they're interested in us not fucking with them. All right. Number two, a very close second is them hunting down political dissidents and families of political dissidents in the United States and fucking killing them. All right.
Yeah.
So like this idea that, oh, well, it's just like this harmful little guy. And as you put it, they fell on the wrong side of the Truman Doctrine. Listen up. They aligned with a geopolitical force that was intent on genociding the United States. Okay. This wasn't just like, oh, well, they just wanted to have a Danish health system. That's not what happened.
No,
right?
they had an authoritative government that shut down opposing political parties and imprisoned dissidents. I'm not saying this didn't happen. I'm just saying the idea that this now justifies what we are currently doing to their population, I think, is completely misplaced, especially considering you are now falling to the right of the Obama administration, which is like, hey, this is not what we need to be doing, and we need to undo these sanctions, right? You acknowledge that?
No, because I've said repeatedly that I think that the direction that the Obama administration was going in was significantly superior to this absolute insanity that the Trump administration is doing right now. So
okay,
no,
but do you think he was doing the right thing by trying to undo these embargo and these sanctions?
Yes, I do. Yes, absolutely. Okay. I mean, that's why I went to
Wait,
Cuba.
why? They're so evil.
What do you mean why? It's because I think that...
Well, you're calling me like, oh, I'm ignoring the worst parts of it. I'm like, well, hold on. I acknowledge these worst parts.
Hold on. Do you understand that we can negotiate with governments and governments change over time, that we could perhaps sway them to be more on our side? The problem is it failed. Obama tried. The reset failed. It failed.
What
right?
do you mean
the
reset failed? That's
Putin,
not why.
Back under the Bush era, it failed. We tried to reset
why
with
do you
Cuba,
think Trump
it failed.
undid the Obama administration's policies?
Why are we so friendly with Vietnam and all these other post-communist countries?
Can we answer my question? No. Wait. Stop moving on. Why did Obama do these things, and why did Trump undo them? Why didn't Obama undo them if they failed? Wick.
He got out of office.
No,
Trump won.
That's not what he wouldn't have then reversed them. The reason they undid it was because
by having this. After trying for his years, and he was still trying, and he wanted Hillary to win to continue.
Why did Trump undo them? Do you think Trump undid them because they failed?
Trump does what he does because he's just an opportunist. He probably hated
Why?
Obama, but simply
Mhm.
because he did it for an illegitimate reason doesn't mean that there weren't legitimate reasons to do that.
There could have been legitimate
Correct.
reasons, but that's not why it happened.
There
It happened.
are.
No,
There are.
it happened because they wanted more Cuban, anti-Cuba, pro-Republican Cuban immigrants who could immediately go from refugee to civilian in Florida, and they could keep that state red. That's why that fucking happened. It had nothing to do with whether or not the Cuban government was becoming more amicable because we were going to stop sanctioning them.
And a lot of people support good things for bad reasons all the time. That's how politics works. It doesn't mean that it's all or nothing.
What's
I
the
mean,
end game if we
point
just
is, look-
sanction Cuba forever? Eventually
well,
they'll give up.
The end
Yes.
game is that eventually they will collapse.
Just 10,
That's what
just
happened
10
with
more
the
years,
Soviet Union.
guys. Just 60 more years. We'll get them. Or maybe we could try to restore relations and make them more amicable to us, which was Obama was doing.
Do you think that we haven't done that? Like,
No, we have, and they undid
we're
it.
friends.
They undid it.
We've succeeded with almost all of the post-Soviet countries. Half of the fucking planet was communist.
Mm-hmm.
And we've succeeded overwhelmingly in patching up these relationships. And it's utterly bizarre to look at one of like what, 5 that we haven't fixed the relationships with and be like, oh, it must be the United States that's the problem. That's insane.
Wild to me.
Did we do the same amount of sanctions on Vietnam and then we just undid them?
Today? Like, I don't.
Can you answer my question?
Did we do this?
Did we do the same amount of sanctions on North Vietnam and then we just undid it, right?
Yes, we were significantly harder on Vietnam than Cuba. Are you like what?
Were we? Just because why? Because we invaded, not because we, like tried to
Because we
invade. Well, you think we didn't try to
only
do
an
that to
invasion,
fucking
guys.
Cuba?
We only sent over.
We tried to do the fucking
hundreds of
Bay of
thousands.
Pigs. What are you talking about? Like, oh, the Bay
You're
of
right.
Pigs. Like, yeah, you don't think if it was strategically advantageous, we wouldn't have invaded Cuba? We're literally talking about doing it right now.
Yes, correct. I think that we were I think we went very light on Cuba. I think if we wanted to do something really horrible, if we wanted to be very heavy-handed with them, I think we would have done a full-scale invasion.
I don't think we should.
We
I don't think
literally
we should.
tried to do that.
Well, the Bay of Pigs isn't a full-scale invasion. The Bay of
Right,
Pigs
because
is more
we
like what
realized,
happened-
maybe there was...
Yeah.
All right.
Hold
Well,
on. The Bay of Pigs, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the Bay of Pigs, we simply provided weapons and promised to support
To the oppositions, yes, we did not send Americans.
the-
Yes. Well,
yeah, that
actually, there
wasn't an
probably were
invasion.
Americans on the ground, but we will never acknowledge that. So,
Yeah, and what did we find out? We thought when they got there that there would be a popular revolution against Castro and that they would help the forces that were going there. And then they didn't, so we gave it up. We said we thought the Cuban people wanted this. We thought the
Okay.
Cuban people would overthrow Castro. But then, oh my God, it looks like they actually like the guy. So what
Okay.
happened? Castro stayed alive 50 miles away from Miami for the next 80 years. That's what
Okay.
happened.
and what
So
happened
yeah,
to Vietnam?
I think we were a lot harder on Vietnam.
And it
That's
didn't
what I
fucking
think.
work, right?
I mean, it worked out in the long term.
Hold
We're
on.
friends
They-
with
No,
they
people
have-
now.
we
Vietnam's
lost
like an
thousands
ally
of...
now, ain't it?
Yeah, why is our ally Wick?
Because they approached
Because of
us-
liberalism.
Yes, they wanted liberalism. They got liberalism into place, and they.
Well, first of all,
decided that, hey,
Vietnam is a
communism wasn't
communist
working, and
country,
they
right?
Decided to go with
Vietnam is still a
America.
communist country, Wick.
But it was still liberalist, the liberal
been
international
liberalized.
We
order. Yeah.
It's been
established
liberalized. It's
trade
communist
relations
in
with
name
them,
only.
and now they're friendly to us because we have some sort of incredibly draconian embargo on their country, right? Which is what Obama was trying to get to
I don't
restore
think
said.
Vietnam have been hunting down dissidents on American soil.
Maybe that was a proximity thing, but you don't think that the North Vietnamese would absolutely have been fucking doing that if they could have? Like, that we were at war, we were
Maybe, but
annihilating
they
their entire
couldn't,
country.
and that helped us normalize relations. The problem
So
with Cuba
ridiculous,
is they haven't.
dude.
They're close enough that they haven't stopped. They
God.
have continuously
I mean, well, and
conducted
you're looking.
intelligence and military operations against United States assets.
You think
globally.
Obama didn't
And-
know that? He's like, whoa, hold on, whoa. They're killing us? All right, no. Undo the sanction. Don't undo
Well,
the sanctions.
first
Put them
things
back.
first.
Like, what are you
First
talking
things
about?
First, Obama has some of the worst foreign policy of all time. He was a fantastic domestic president, but his foreign policy takes were unbelievably horrible. From Syria to Ukraine to Afghanistan to Iraq to all of it. So Obama's foreign policy was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
The only thing that
That's
might
like,
have
do you
been
wanna
somewhat
up and stream
okay
fist on me real
was
quick?
Iran. Maybe. And that's
Right.
there's a serious question mark.
Sorry.
Can I take a photo?
Yeah, sorry, hold on. I'm being ambushed by this Uber Eats guy in this hotel copy room real quick.
Get
He wants to
your
take a
food, get your
photo.
food,
Guys,
bro.
He's camera.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
knows who I am, apparently.
Welcome to Wick TV. Are you gonna wick out for us? Hell yeah, let's do
He's on
it.
stream.
Okay.
What's up, man? All right, nice to meet you, man.
What are we eating?
I didn't Uber Eats anything. He's delivering it to someone else in the hotel.
Oh, you're not getting some yummy ramen?
I'm
Yeah.
not getting any yummy ramen. But you know who else isn't getting it? Is fucking Cuba, because they're sanctioned right now, Wick. So, sorry, I did
Yeah,
not
well,
hear the
maybe
last
Cuban
3
government
minutes. I
should
got distracted.
Stop trying to kill Cuban dissidents. Maybe
Yeah, I
that'll
mean,
help.
I
First of all,
certainly
Wick, do you think
the
we do that,
extent-
by the way? Do you think we fucking kill Cubans and shit all the time? Like, you don't think we
not
have...
really, no.
Certain that we conduct military operations against our intelligence operations against our adversaries. But here's the difference: when American interests come into conflict with any other country's interests, I want American interests to succeed.
Yeah.
Any American interest, even if there's some crazy interest like, hey, we don't want U.S. aid because even though this might hurt what I would perceive as American interests,
no, what
we don't
Trump's
like this
doing
program.
is not in America's interest.
Correct.
That's
Boom.
your opinion.
That's a big one.
No, it's not boom.
Well, yeah.
That's your opinion. What is America's
Well, yeah,
interest?
that-
Is it in America's interest to coup the government in Chile? Technically, yes. Is that good? I don't think so. So it's not in my interest. Like what?
Hold on. Not all actions that
You're
America's
asking a person.
takes in American administration's takes have been in American interests. Right?
Which
They've
ones?
done so
What?
for their own personal
What?
gain. For
No,
their
no, no,
own,
no, no, no,
for
no,
their
no.
own
American
petty-
government, the American government cooing Chile is because we want to put people that
Hold
are
on, do you think
with
that Trump
have America's
did
interests at heart,
anything
right?
Because of what's in America's interest?
Of course.
Do you think it's in
of
America's
course. What do you mean?
interest
No. Hold on. You're sitting here. You telling me that Trump is taking America's interest into account when he decides to go
What?
into Venezuela?
What do you think American interests are? Do you think
American
this is an
interests are things that
objective
will help the
thing?
people of the country that will help us be stronger, wealthier, more powerful, all these things.
Isn't the
Yeah.
whole idea that one of the biggest problems that we have with Trump is that he's acting like an authoritarian dictator that does things in his own personal interests that don't reflect the well-being of the nation? Isn't that like our entire argument? Because it
Yes, and
certainly is
isn't this an opinion on what is best for the country? Because some people think that having oligarchs in charge or commanding Venezuela's country using our power is better, and that therefore it's good to coup and take out Maduro. Like, this is an opinion. That's the whole point.
Well,
like,
you're
what is America?
asking
I
us
don't
our
oppose.
opinion.
I know what your opinion is. The idea that it's like, well, I wouldn't support what America's doing if it went against America's interests. That's your opinion. That's the whole point. American interests could be, hey, I think sanctioning Cuba is good, and yet a whole administration ago it wasn't. So why is that like this arbitrary metric on what you and I think is good is like how you measure whether or not what America's doing is good? No, it should be whether or not it's a good thing in our opinion, sure, but not calling it American interests. That's an opinion from you and me. What is best for America? I think it's best for America to establish good diplomatic relations,
no,
stop
no, no,
hurting
no,
people
no,
in
no,
Cuba.
no.
That's
Don't
technically
play
against
this.
what Trump
Don't play
says is the American interest, right?
You can't just say it's your opinion, man, as if all opinions are equal in this
Yeah.
conversation. Like I can
I'm
say
saying
with,
that you can't
"It's
say
just
you can't
my
appeal.
opinion
It
that
is
it's in
just your
America's
opinion.
interest to
That is
support
your opinion.
Ukraine rather than Russia, perhaps. But my opinion here has more evidence to back it up to being correct than
Right.
the opinion someone might have
Right.
that Russia
So
is
you
in our
can't.
best
So
interest.
just don't
No,
appeal
it's
to what American interests are. Appeal to this is the evidence of why this is good. I think we should stop sanctioning Cuba, not because it is an American interest to stop sanctioning Cuba. I don't want the people of Cuba to suffer. I think there's no point in maintaining this embargo long term. This is not going to end well for that country. It's not going to benefit us in some amazing way, and we can establish a better trade relation and make this country amicable to us, just like Vietnam is. And just because Trump says, or fucking Marco Rubio says, it's in America's interest to keep this embargo going, we can both look at that and say, no, not really, right?
No, I think
Okay.
American policy should be putting American interests first, and I don't think that we should be removing that from the dynamic and trying to take some weird internet, oh, well, this is just objectively good, whether it's American interests or not. Like, no, America, we have shown the world what it looks like when we have the mantle. Take a look at Western Europe and take a look at Eastern Europe. There has never been a more benevolent international superpower like us. So I think we have enough credibility to say that American interests are objectively good interests. I think that we've eradicated
Objectively
poverty. I
good.
think-
Every American interest is
yes.
objectively good.
Overall, yes.
Okay,
I
ask the
think that-
people of like anything south of the border of
well,
that if they think so.
So
But
if,
okay.
if something went wrong somewhere, Okay, South.
Well, you just said they're all objectively good. I have a nuanced opinion
No,
on it.
he
You
said
said they're all
overall.
objectively good.
He said
Overall.
overall, as in
okay. Oh,
maybe
okay.
not
I'm
all
not
of
saying-
them, but
I know this is
overall we
crazy.
do more good than bad. And I think he's just correct. $5. Let me get these out. $5 from Real Determinatus. Soy Pill is just memeing. He's just being a contrarian for contrarianism's sake. He doesn't actually believe that this is that unfathomable. Thank you for $5. And then $5 more from Black Pilled Kiwi. You know how to tell that Obama had shit foreign policy? The only thing the left gives him credit for is those policies. Ha ha ha. Thank you for the $5. There you go.
Yeah, I think
To be
and I think
clear,
this
I'm
is
not
a
an
really-
America bad person. I do think America has probably done more good overseas than they've done bad, but that doesn't mean that there's objectively good that everything in America's interest happens, right? Like I wouldn't even say overall. I'd say it's much closer to like a 60-40 sort of situation when you look at the damage that we've caused across the planet. But I would much rather America be the hegemon than Russia or China. Sure, yeah.
If it was 60-40, which I acknowledge it might be, I don't think there is an international hegemon that would develop a society in which people could meaningfully say that. I think that is one of the all-time strongest parts of liberalism, is that we are fundamentally, as a people, looking at what we do and saying, hey, that thing that happened in Chile was really fucked up and we need to make sure that we never do it again. Because
Okay.
nobody else would do that. Nobody else would look, self-reflect like that. I mean, the Soviets can't even acknowledge how many people died in Afghanistan.
If you saw that after the subpoena, it actually came to a point where they did find that Hasan did something illegal by paying someone, like even something as simple as like a shop owner he wasn't supposed to, and they decided to sanction him by
No, that would be
financially or legally, would you say that this kind of goes against what you just said about us being able to self-reflect on those sorts of things? Because they're kind of probably going after him for saying America bad for whatever reason he is saying it. A lot of reasons, by the way, I don't think are legitimate, but a lot of them are. Like the Chile thing or any of the other things we're doing in the Americas.
Yeah, I hope this answers your question. If it doesn't, feel free to ask it again. I think that fundamentally, if Hasan faces any kind of consequences for what he did in Cuba, it would be there would be a catastrophic mistake and missed opportunity somewhere. I think if the absolute worst thing possible happened while he was in Cuba, whatever that is, I think that what we should be getting out of it is cooperation from Hasan, and that should look like Hasan's life is effectively not changing, but he's exchanging, giving us information related to whatever that imaginary nightmare scenario is. So
Okay,
any scenario.
Wait. Can I
which
agree with you
something
there?
bad happens-
If Hasan
Sure.
was doing something on the level of tenant media, where it's like, hey, we are going to start paying this guy to disseminate Cuban propaganda, Cuban government propaganda to your audience of a bajillion people, and this was discovered, I would agree that if the American government was able to investigate this and then say, all right, maybe we should track these sorts of payments and, like, you know, be transparent with the American public that this person is paid, I would agree with you, right? That this would be a bad thing. Okay. Do you think the Trump admin cares about that?
Fuck no. The Trump admin's retarded.
Okay, cool. Me too. That's why I think this is all bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Like I said, I think that basically anything coming out of the Trump administration requires extra scrutiny. But I am extremely reluctant to enter the world in which, oh, the Trump admin did it. Well, I'm just going to throw it out the window.
Well, I'm not throwing it out the window just because it's
sure.
Trump, all right? I will give credence to Trump if he does a good thing, okay? I don't think this is one of those things.
I think it's in spite of Trump, not because of Trump doing a good thing. I think it's in spite of Trump. I think that we have an incredibly robust bureaucracy, incredibly robust institutions that still somehow manage to do effective things in spite of idiots in charge. I think Venezuela is a really spectacular example of that, is that when you look at the American military, we can do unbelievable things, but our leadership is so rotten that what do we get out of it? Nothing.
Okay. Wow. We have gone about an hour and a half now. Do you mind if I open up for callers for about 20 minutes? Is that cool? Everyone got some time?
Sure. Let's do it.
Yeah. And gang, if you want to call in, if you were listening to this and you're like, that Wick and that Bishop guy are ganging up on Soy Pill, we need to defend our
I don't need it.
propeller hat's honor.
Don't ask for help.
If you're sitting here and you're like, man, Soy Pill's kind of retarded. Either way, if you want to come in and talk, hit that. I'm gonna give you the link now, but jump backstage. I'll pull you in, and we can talk. I know Dev, you said you wanted to come in and have something to say. Marlo,
Real quick, I'm going to mute because I got a super chat from Framalam, 10 Australian dollar dues. If these guys were in 30s Germany, they would have cheered on the locking up of communists and socialists. If this was solely legit, the Fox involvement wouldn't be so deep. Hasan sucks, but come on. Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you, Framalam. Oh, I see like in the chat. What's up?
I'm gonna be honest with you, and then maybe no one's gonna disagree with this. I feel like we don't need to ban Hasan. We don't need to feel bad for him either, at all. And to be honest, I don't even know why. I mean, even if people do cheer on it, I don't think it's bad because Hasan is an enemy of us as well, and they're not going after like liberals, I would say. So I don't know if there's any reason we need to defend someone who will not defend us. And if anything, getting rid of him, I mean, quote unquote, getting rid of him, right, would help us in the long run anyway. So if you look at it like a net benefit side, him being gone is the greatest thing ever. I'm not going to defend
Vishy,
the guy.
wait, so Vishy, to be clear, you wouldn't defend anyone for any sort of rights that you think are like supposed to be enforced for all Americans if you didn't like them.
No. Okay, that's a really okay. I would defend him if it was anything like if the Cuba thing. I feel like they have some form of legal avenue to do it, and it could be yes or no. I don't think it is straight up like just political. I would say they literally advertised something that could be sanctioned, like sanction breaking or whatever. But if it was like for espionage or something like that, I'll be like, okay, no, this is bad.
Well, then why do you have any smoke for Hasan doing it at all? Then, if you would do the same back. Because I think what he says when he sees like a centrist Democrat getting arrested or having some dumb DOJ charge thrown at him, that's bad, right? And then that's why I wouldn't do it to Hasan. But you're saying no, actually, I won't have any smoke for Hasan cheering on Adam Schiff getting arrested because that's what I think we should do, right?
My problem with that argument is that it draws a false equivalency. It's sort of like, oh yeah, you say you're tolerant, well then why don't you tolerate my intolerance? And it's like, look, the same thing from different people are different things.
Yeah, one of them you agree with and the other one you don't, but they're the same tactic, which is I don't care what the charge is. If this gets rid of them, I'm okay with it, right?
I just want to make my stance clear here. Like, I think that Vishy, I think that's the wrong way to go about it, wrong way to think about it. This isn't like, oh, he didn't defend us, we shouldn't defend him. No. The reason my mind changed is because I was convinced and reminded of, because again, I have worked in the military before, that there were, oh, wow, there's a plausible, legitimate reason that a subpoena could be issued here that I think I do not have enough information to say whether or not my distrust of the Trump administration overrides that. And so I am like, okay, I think the legitimate reasons are enough that I'm going to sit back, stand by, see what happens here. I'm not going to take too strong of a stance yet. I think subpoenaing him could very well be entirely legitimate and within America's interest. So I'm just going to, yeah. But my decision here isn't because, oh, Hasan didn't defend us, so we're not going to defend him.
Yeah, I agree.
That's not the main reason. I'm going to put it part of it. It's like a minor reason, but I'm going to have that in there. Same way, like I would say for the most
Come on,
part.
Peace Go. If you want in, jump in, brother.
I wasn't mad. I mean, I was extremely mad when he went after Comey, even though I hate Comey with all my heart, because I feel like that was straight up just like that was straight up just political warfare. I think there is some validity to going after Hasan. And like at the end of the day, I hate Republicans more than I hate Hasan. So
yeah.
At the end of the day, I was so mad at Comey because I feel like I didn't see any single reason for them to do it, or any of those ex-Trump guys that didn't bend the knee at the very end. They went after him. I didn't like that, even though I can be like, oh, who cares, right? I think it's because they all went after one single goal. If I swear, if this was like another way they attacked Hasan for something else, I'd be like defending it. I just think there is validity here,
yeah,
which is why I'm not going to feel, which I'm not even going to feel bad about if there is some validity.
Do you think Letitia James fucked up on her mortgage stuff?
To be honest, I don't know much about it. I don't think she did.
You don't think she at all? It's completely made it up. It was a total lie. It wasn't even like maybe they found an error somewhere.
I mean, possibly. I don't know much about it, so I'm not going to speak on it. I don't want to.
Well, go look into it, and then question whether or not you do the same thing for Letitia James. Given that, like, hey, wait, hold on, she did technically break the law. It's fine that they're going after her, right?
Well, there's
I
also a difference in getting something wrong on your mortgage paperwork and collaborating with a hostile foreign government to indoctrinate the American public by the millions.
A thing
Those
that
are
you
two
haven't
different crimes.
substantiated whatsoever. But okay, yeah, I agree. Those
Well,
are different.
I actually hold on, Pisco. Before or Soy Pill, Pisco. Before you guys jump in there, I actually have a point that I think has kind of been glossed over. Do we know who funded the media network that sponsored Hasan's trip to China? Because I feel
some
like
billionaire named Singham.
yeah, do we know if this person has any relation to who sponsored Code Pink for the China flotilla? Or not the China flotilla, the Cuba flotilla? Because in reality, this might not be about Cuba at all. This could be about ties to the CCP, which is even more adversarial to the US, which I would say is a much stronger case, not necessarily against Hassan, but would be a much more valid reason for a subpoena. As far as the subpoena leaking to Fox News, which I know is what Soy Pill is about to say, I just think that was somebody being advantageous and selling a scoop to Fox News and the administration for a few $1,000 because who the hell in this administration isn't getting rich on the public's dime, essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pisco, hold on, just before we go. Pisco, you had some stuff. You've been listening. And you got some thoughts?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I
Go
just
ahead.
don't know what's wrong with taking a negative inference against this administration, especially when it comes to subpoenas and targets related to political actions. Are we supposed to be blind and ignore the course of conduct of this administration as though
Of
they're
course not.
not at
I
every
don't think anybody's
opportunity?
argued that.
Well, hang on a second. So, I think when it relates to things like potential criminal investigations, at this point in the administration, it is your duty to take a negative inference against what the administration is doing to the extent that it relates to, politically relevant topics or politically relevant individuals. You could
Sorry, guys, I got to mute Pisco's actually based thing. Like, and I see what you're saying. I don't know if this was going to be a public hearing at all, right? We don't even know if the subpoena goes anywhere. But yeah, this is very clearly not some like small thing they did under the wraps and like the intelligence reached out to him privately that then he reported on. This was a Fox News story about a subpoena that somehow leaked to the fucking press before he even heard about it, which is, yeah, very clearly political. Also, Tony Shenanigans, what's my opinion on the R slur? I'm pro saying retard.
Please. To be clear, coming into this debate, I did, and I still have a negative opinion of this. Like I came in skeptical because anything the Trump administration does deserves a
Extra
high
scrutiny.
degree of skepticism. However, there has been a great argument made by Bishop that, oh, the Cuban government is a hostile government, and there are very sound reasons to suspect something may have gone on that the America would have a interest in knowing about.
Do
So
you
I
think that the
I
Trump
don't-
admin wick is more likely to have what you just described or everything they've
think it's
been
a coin
displaying?
toss at this
It's a
point.
coin toss after everything
Yes,
you've seen them do.
Because the difference between Comey indictment, the Comey indictment we knew was bullshit because the plausibility of Comey having done what they said was almost zero. However, the plausibility of the the Cuban government and intelligence agencies trying to use Hasan or get information from Hasan, that it would be within our interest to find out what they asked him or what they even talked to him about is much, much higher.
So what would it take for
Why-
you to say it's improper on that
Yeah.
view? On that view,
Yeah.
I guess if you always think that there's a potential interest in the government of the United States to find out what Cuba said or talked to Hassan about, what would it take for you to be like, actually, this is not good?
Well, if as a result of their subpoena, they do something like charge him for buying a hot dog from one of
yeah.
the sellers there, right? Then that'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, this was obviously bullshit and this shouldn't have happened and this was obviously a political attack. But
That's a
however,
really
if
good-
all they do is come in, ask them, hey, did you talk to this person?
Do you think that's all
How
they're going
about
to do,
this
Wick?
person? What did they ask
But no,
you?
hang on a second. No, I'm saying with respect to the subpoena itself. Put aside any. So are you saying that only in the context in which, or one of the key instances in which you could see yourself disagreeing with the subpoena is if a bullshit charge comes out of it? But like, are those really the only circumstances under which you would question the use of the subpoena itself as a device?
I think it's
Um,
because it's Cuba. If it was
hold
like
on,
if he
hold
went
on.
to yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
hold
this
on.
is. Can I real quick?
Go
Rick,
ahead, I
sorry.
guess.
I
Since people-
apologize. Yeah. So, Pisco, number one, I wanted to say I think you're right. fundamentally with what you're saying. Perhaps the way that I've been wording it is anything political coming out of this administration warrants extra scrutiny. I think that's absolutely true.
Oh wait, no, that's not what I said. Sorry, I didn't say extra scrutiny. I said a negative inference to be opposed to it unless and until you're shown some strong evidence that it's motivated by non-bias.
Well,
so I didn't say extra scrutiny. I said,
what do you mean by negative inference?
By negative inference here, I mean a disposition that is against it, not just extra scrutiny.
Yeah, you're sounding a lot like an election denier to me. That's just what that sounds like to me. Is you're just like automatically you should assume that it's wrong.
Hang on a second. So let me.
That's what it sounds like to me.
It's not at all like that.
I'm happy to distinguish it. Negative inference. Automatically, we should distrust the election and. Right.
Hang on a second. So it is sometimes rational to take a negative disposition against a person or institution as a default presumption. Yes or no?
That's so general and
vague. Is it sometimes?
What do you mean? What do you mean by Yeah, explain that more. I'd love to answer.
Yeah. So to disbelieve information coming from a particular source until shown corroborating evidence, it is sometimes rational to have that epistemic frame of reference. Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Okay. So it's not so just to say that this should be applied in a given context does not mean that you will apply it in every context. For example, the elections context. Correct?
Well, I don't think that's very clear. I don't think it's clear. I don't think it's clear what you're saying.
I'm telling you,
you are applying this warranted negative inference to the Trump administration to the actions of a subpoena from the FBI, and that's a very wide.
It's not the FBI.
That's a very wide net.
First of all, it's
OFAC. Whoever. OFAC, fine. Whoever. The federal government.
So I'm happy. But I just want to clear up the air because you said that this would be like taking a kind of negative inference against election results, and I'm trying to first clear that up to make sure that there's no confusion. That's not at all what I applied. So you would take this notion. No. I just want to be clear about that. It's not sort of included in my criticism and my application of a negative inference, regardless of its scope. It's not necessitated or entailed that I would take that same approach to election results. Correct?
So I don't know how wide your net is. Like you're applying it to this federal organization that issued the subpoena. Like where does it stop and start with this Trump?
I'm not going to get yeah. So I'm happy to get into the scope and talk to you about that. But it's just enough for you to say it's not entailed that I take this epistemic view and this negative inference in the context of elections, right? That's not entailed.
I think it is entailed because you haven't substantiated how wide your net is.
Well, no, it's possible. It's narrow such that it doesn't include elections, correct?
No, you haven't.
It's not possible.
That.
Wait. Sorry, I'm asking.
You're arguing with me, dude.
I'm not asking. I'm not. Sorry. I'm not saying that I have substantiated. I'm asking: is it possible for one to have this negative inference in one domain?
Is it possible? Yes. I'm asking.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
This is the third time I'm asking.
So I'm telling you. So what I'm telling you is.
Do I have to ask you 4 times or 5?
Yes. So what I'm telling you is, I don't have that view for election results. Okay.
So that's what I'm trying to suss out. So is it just elections? Is it just the dirty word? Is it just the one that makes you sound stupid that you don't agree with? Or is there a line somewhere?
No. The negative inference makes sense to apply whenever it makes sense to apply it, right? To the extent that it makes sense to apply it. It doesn't make sense to apply it in the context of elections. Yeah. So it makes sense to apply. So it makes sense to apply a negative inference to government actions or justifications in the context in which the government consistently lies and is corrupt. So in that context, it makes sense to apply a negative inference. And that's not true when it comes to election results largely run by state governments. Agreed?
No, I don't. I fundamentally don't agree.
I think so. Let's talk about that. Right? So state governments are different sovereigns, aren't they? Are state governments different sovereigns?
I think that what we're seeing right now is that a lot of state governments are abiding hook, line, and sinker with the Trump administration. I think that's one of the biggest topics that we've been talking about over the last couple months. Where are you?
So in the context of So first,
yes, it is about elections.
First in the context of election results, by which we mean the count of votes, right? In terms of the counts of votes, I'm not aware of Republican states doing fraudulent ballots such that we should question their election results, and I don't think that there's a track record of that. And such.
All right, I got you, Logan. His Twitter is. By the way, Pisco's cooking this guy. Good job, Pisco. But let me find this. But looking for the tweet where we promoted this. We're going live with what an awful fucking Twitter handle. At KBP, that's Kilo Bravo Pisco, 9 lowercase a 91. KBP 9 lowercase a 91, and it's just Bishop. I don't know why his username sucks so much. All right, unmuting.
Here in the context of investigations, right? That's what government investigations. If there is a consistent track record of lies and corruption, that's one reason to apply negative inference. That isn't just because I like it, right? That's not that.
You're saying, generally speaking, you're defining your realm as investigations. Yes, that's
one
saying.
realm.
You're saying you don't like it. Investigations is so broad that covers like what 100,000 people.
Wait. Did I say I don't like it, or did I say if there's a track record of consistent lies and corruption, or is that the same thing as I like it?
No. However, what you are saying, as I hear it, is that you think that the Trump administration has used over and over and over again the judicial branch in order to fulfill its political goals in a way that you feel is improper or corrupt. And therefore, because they have a pattern of behavior, that we should, by default, oppose whatever they do.
Call into question. He didn't say necessarily opposed, to be clear.
I said
he has a negative inference.
Negative inference. And so the reason I do this is, I mean, everyone understands it in their daily life. If you have someone who consistently fucks you over, a student who consistently, turns in the wrong paper, someone who consistently lies to you, a news source, by example, think like Iranian state media that consistently lies, or North Korean state media. This is not something bizarre to apply once you've been shown to be so unreliable and so, corrupt that, yes, this is not something that's insane to apply. But and it doesn't make you an election denier to apply a negative inference.
What's the difference between that and extra scrutiny? Because you made it clear that that's not what you're saying.
Yeah. So the difference between extra scrutiny. Yeah. I understand extra scrutiny to be maintaining a position of agnosticism, right? An agnostic position, and before you're going to be swayed in favor, to have an extra threshold. That's what I take to be someone with extra scrutiny.
Then we're fighting over nothing because we agree.
Sorry, no, that's not. Wait, hang on. So we're not. So that's not the same thing, because that's not what I'm advocating for. I'm not advocating for you. I'm not. So they're different. So we don't agree, right? So they're different. So we don't agree, right? So I'm not advocating for you to be agnostic and just apply a higher threshold before you believe it. I'm saying you should take a negative disposition. No, wait. So these are different positions, aren't they?
They're not, different, because the whole
they
reason
are.
why they're
obviously are.
The reason why they're different is the reason why you would apply extra scrutiny to something is because you don't believe it.
No, sorry. Do you understand the difference between agnosticism and not agnosticism?
Yes, obviously, but what I'm
saying,
so you are intentionally applying a neutral tone to an investigation. In fact, a reinvestigation. And what I'm saying is that the whole reason to have extra scrutiny, and this is just we could chalk this up to me not communicating it well enough. But the whole reason to have extra scrutiny is because you don't believe it in the first place.
Yeah, so I'm going a step further, right? So like, you can be. So I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, right? So like, there is a position that you could take, and that position is in favor. You could take a position that is against, and you could take a position that is, I don't really know. I'm agnostic. I withhold judgment, right? Those are all different positions you can take. I understand a position of requiring extra scrutiny to believe something to be a position ultimately that grounds out into agnosticism. You see that? That's different than being against it. I am in default against it in these domains.
I'm not describing agnosticism. I'm saying initially I do not believe that this is true, so I will apply extra scrutiny.
Oh, so are you an election denier?
See, this is my point, though. I like.
So that was bullshit when you accused that of me. So now you're saying we have the same position. That was bullshit when you accused me of being an election denier. Now you're saying we actually have the same position.
Bishop,
you were leading me to believe that you were arguing something further than extra scrutiny.
No,
Dude, I'm not even.
I am.
Like,
no, Bishop, think of it like
you're
this.
not,
If you're a debate moderator, you're going to take everything they say with extra scrutiny if you're trying to fact check it, even if like you're third person, or like if you're not, like, let's say Caitlin Collins is trying to and fact checkers trying to do extra scrutiny to make sure all the debate people are like telling the truth. But if you're doing what Pisco's saying,
that's not quite true. Like if Rob Noor tells me something, I'm going to have extra scrutiny for it. But I generally
maybe even a negative inference.
But also,
you might say,
Trump says,
no, hold on. But if Trump says,
the
difference here is what makes this thing is I started off disbelieving the judicial actions by the Trump administration against Hasan. I thought this is bullshit, and I've
That's
told people this.
what
Right? I think
negative
this is
inferences,
That's what
bullshit.
Wick.
that's what
This
Pis- that's what
smells like
Pisco's
That's what
bullshit.
Pisco's
This
saying.
doesn't seem to be something that there is
That's
a legitimate case
negative
for. However, the
inference.
argument made today has reminded me, and I've looked into it more and things like that, where okay, actually, there's enough of a plausibility here. It's highly likely that I have gone from being against Trump to neutral in this situation. I'm
Wait,
not
so Wick,
pro, but I
Yeah,
am now
yeah.
neutral.
no, Wick,
I am
no,
now
Wick,
deciding
But
I don't
no,
have enough
Wick,
that's a
information.
disposition change,
Wick,
right?
no, you
That's a
started,
disposition
and,
change.
you
and this
started
is
with
something
negative
I've been wanting to
inference.
say for a while. I'm so sorry, Vishy. This is something I've been wanting to say for a while. I really wish that I could take the soy pill's entire perspective on this issue, because I would say philosophically, I started from where the soy pill is. The problem is that with my experience and knowing how a lot of this stuff works, I find it virtually impossible that he didn't talk to somebody
Virtually
and have a
impossible.
conversation worth asking about. I would say if I was an intelligence officer and my job was like the Cuba desk, I would want to question every single American that is coming in and out of there right now. If
Oh.
anything,
Wait,
just to be
why
like,
didn't they do that, Bishop?
Yeah, but they didn't do that. This is mandatory process. This is subpoena.
You're right, but I say a political program raises the threshold from your average person.
No,
right?
we're saying you could have asked Hasan about it. You could have sent an inquiry. You could have sent him a letter. You could have sent a
Well, that's
notice
what a
to the
subpoena
lawyer.
is.
No, a subpoena has the force of law. It's mandatory.
Okay. Like that's what
Yeah,
I'm talking about. If it was up to
Okay.
me, I would want to talk to every single person. However, I think that the threshold can rise when you are doing a political program that is officially collaborating with the Cuban government. This isn't like my friend Tyler Pennell, whose wife is from Cuba and he regularly goes to Cuba and they just go in and visit his family. This was an entire political
Wait,
program.
how do you know
yes,
they're not? How do you know he's not doing that?
I know that he's not in a political program that has been.
How do you
ordained and
know?
Because
There's
I
less
know
reason
him.
to suspect that.
Okay, but
He
shouldn't we
has- he hasn't
shouldn't we
done that
subpoena him? Is it
three-
not plausible that he
he
went to a bar and talked to someone?
Once again, I think that there is value in talking to every single person. I'd be curious and
Okay,
be like,
why
"Hey,
don't- well, then
Talking is
why-
different than
American,
issuing a
does anybody-
Why
subpoena.
didn't? Why don't we just subpoena
Yes.
all of them just in case?
What is this question? You guys are playing stupid. I've said it 4 times, and it's like I'm talking
Okay,
to people that are
okay.
intentionally
No,
dishonestly
Vishy,
acting like they
Vishy.
don't
Okay.
know what I'm
What are
saying.
you talking about? No, you can talk to people. No one's stopping you from talking to Hasan or talking to all these people. But what happened was there was an issuance of a subpoena, and at least allegedly there was pre-clearance with the Office of Foreign Asset Controls. And in that context, I'm just not sure what you're saying is, well, there's an interest in talking to people. Why is that, which could be true of anyone traveling to Cuba? Why is that justification for the issuance of a subpoena? I mean, the greater includes the lesser here. Well, why wouldn't it justify subpoenaing everyone who goes to Cuba anytime?
I think
There-
he wants to, right? Bishop, you want to subpoena everyone.
You would want to subpoena every single individual that
Subpoena everyone?
travels
No,
to
I
Cuba?
wouldn't want to subpoena.
Okay,
No,
so
every
then,
single
Bishop,
person.
surely something distinguishes this
I would
in your
want to.
mind.
I would want to talk to every single person that goes there, and I would want to subpoena
Hey,
anybody that
no,
is
Bishop.
involved in high-level political programs, deeply involved with the Cuban government and military. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, why
As a
do you
default,
think?
so
Go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, Bill. Sorry.
No. Finish what you're saying.
I was just gonna say, like, if you take is that there's like a default presumption that if you go into high level communications with members of the Cuban, I don't know, government or whatever.
Let's just say
I mean,
government.
yeah. So I mean, if that's your view, is there maybe there's evidence that Hasan had high level communications, and you would therefore want to subpoena him instead of like asking him about it or sending him a letter or sending a request for documents? I mean, I just don't think that this is a standard that the administration is actually applying. I think I think there's no question that if Hasan were someone that were sympathetic to the administration, he would not be hit with a subpoena. And I take politically motivated investigations to be repugnant to the Constitution, and that's something that we say our oath to protect.
So are you asserting that there is no difference between Hasan going to Cuba and my friend Tyler Pennell visiting his wife's family?
I'm sure I
Why'd
didn't
you
say
say
that
his
there's no
name? Why'd
difference.
you say his name?
I'm sure I didn't say that there was no difference. In fact, the
Okay.
reason, in fact, I'm saying the opposite, right? I said that there is a difference. And the difference is, right, and this is one that I think is obvious, is their sympathies towards the president. Their sympathies towards
so I
Trump.
would say that a more important difference is that one of them was in an official program that was collaborating with a hostile foreign government, and the other one isn't.
Okay,
That's
why
what
didn't
really
they subpoena Brian Grimm?
Brian Grimm?
Yeah, why didn't they do that?
I don't. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't subpoena every single person on that
Wait,
on that
because
Oh.
program.
Ryan was technically being like a journalist, so I feel like that would
I
put way
mean,
more scrutiny.
Brian Grimm is.
Oh, well,
What's the
journalists couldn't
difference between-
possibly talk to a guy in a bar. That'd be crazy, right?
What's the difference between Brian Grimm and Hasan? Why didn't
It's
they?
Ryan.
He's a leftist. He's
There's
a leftist
honestly not
influencer.
as big of an influencer. I think it's because
Oh,
Ryan
because
Grimm
he's
isn't
not
as
as
big,
big, because
and
he's
they were
not
like,
large
"Hey,
enough,
we
not
can
as big.
we can go after these people,
hold
right?"
on, please. But this is like if your position is that the Trump administration is cracking down on its political opponents and trying to chill anyone from going to Cuba or helping Cuba, and also using it as a vector to attack its political opponents. Brian Grimm certainly qualifies as a political opponent that they want to attack and a vector to chill people. So
Is there
the
a
question you
follow-up?
have
I
to
don't
deal
know.
with
I'm happy
is
to answer
why
that.
Hasan and
I'm
not
happy. I'm
him.
happy to answer that. Yeah, for the same reason in the context of what they did previously with immigration and going after Mahmoud Khalil and going after Ameza Oster, because you don't have to get everybody. You can go after particular targets, and you go after people who are unsympathetic. Hasan is more unsympathetic than Ryan Grimm. Ryan Grimm has the extra credentials of being a real journalist. I mean, let's be honest here. Hasan is not a journalist, and there's probably more of an institutional protection of them. And so yeah, I think you go after weaker targets that have less sympathy. The Code Pink people, right? Those aren't sympathetic people to most individuals in the country, and so all of that I think explains why you pick and choose your targets, and that doesn't mean that it's not chilling, right? Any more than it would be.
Liberals are more likely to be like, you know what, I am okay with them going after Hasan. That's why.
Yeah, for the exact reason that you're seeing.
Would liberals be okay with them going after Ryan Grimm and some of the
I don't
other
think so. I
tankies
think
on
he'd get
that
a lot.
list?
I think Ryan Grimm would get a lot more pushback from the liberals, and they did this because
No.
it's politically
No.
advantageous.
I
don't know about
disagree.
that.
That's crazy.
No.
I
think-
don't.
You think Hasan is less or equally as hated as Ryan Grimm?
I think he is.
He's more, but if they're still in the same
Hold
echelon.
on,
I
no,
think-
no, no, no.
I'll tell you this. I actually
Look,
think-
for me, and I can only speak for me, I think that Ryan Grimm is far more insidious.
Yeah.
than
I hate him.
Hasan is, for a lot
Yeah.
of reasons.
Okay,
I
this
think-
is not about
'cause
what
I think
you
Hasan
think
is
is more
just
is worse,
a
right? It's not about what you think is
Most
worse.
Americans don't even know who Hasan is.
Oh, no,
More
they
people
really
know
don't
who Hasan
either.
is than Ryan Grimm. More people. He's more famous than Ryan Grimm. A lot of these cases.
You've created a disprovable scenario based on what, follower count?
Oh no, I don't.
Oh,
No.
now we're talking about disprovable scenarios, Mr.
Sorry,
fucking got met in a bar and
This is-
exchanged intelligence. That's what we're
no,
doing.
this
We
is
don't
what
have an
I'm saying.
impossible standard. We don't have. You guys have an impossible standard.
There is no impossible standard. As a fact of life, Hasan told people that he was in direct communication with the Cuban government. That is something he said.
When did he say that?
This is
What did
not-
he say?
He
So
said
that he
he
could
said
get
it
his
on-
internet, right?
Yeah. And let me rephrase that in some kinds of legal terms. He is
No,
in
don't do
direct communication with the Cuban government to
Was
receive
it a fact?
special
Was it
privileges.
a fact that Nick Shirley was in a sanctioned hotel he wasn't supposed to be in?
Well, don't get me wrong. If you want to sit here and tell me that this dog shit government is not going after Nick Shirley when they should be, I'll agree with you all day.
No, but
that's
that is
not a contention.
Okay, no,
not what I'm saying.
but if you grant that though, if you grant that they're not applying the law equally, that's repugnant to the Constitution. That's repugnant to rule
Yes,
of
it
law
is repugnant.
and equal
Yes, it's
protection.
horrible.
And
Yes.
we should be against the whole thing. To put nothing
No,
to
that's
say
not how it works. It's like so if they wrongly investigate, so they stalk somebody day and night for 4 years because they're trying to get them for murder, and then they get them for murder, and that was wrong because they stalked them for 4 years. All of a sudden, we can't have problem with murder as a whole.
Absent compelling evidence that distinguishes the cases, absent compelling corroborated evidence, I am going to apply a negative inference to this regime. And until they show me the way in which an objectively neutral person might distinguish the conduct here, I'm going to assume that they didn't have an objectively good reason to distinguish that conduct.
Here's an objectively. What's up, Vishy?
I was going to say this. I was going to say, Wick, the way you described your thing was 100% what Pisco said. But I wanted to say, I honestly, if they didn't do it for China, which was weird, but my thing is,
That was weird.
If they did it for China or Cuba, I would be like, okay, I kind of get some validity.
Because they want to do war with Cuba. I mean, isn't that the most obvious thing in the world?
Yes.
They're trying to do war with Cuba, and that's why they're doing these kind of measures.
You're also trying to not get China to have the upper hand on you. But if you went to Ukraine and they did this, I'd be like, okay, that's fucking wild. But I feel like I feel like if you did it for China or Cuba, I was like, okay, I definitely understand some type of validity.
The fact that they didn't do it for both actually is to me kind of pushes me towards that there is something legitimate here. If their purpose was to target Hasan Piker, right?
Yeah.
They would have done it after he came from the CCP, right?
Everybody
They would
would
have
have.
absolutely, because
Everybody would have said he deserves it after he came back from China.
I
After
would
he
have been
had
like,
a soundbite of him saying, "I'm not particularly patriotic to the United States."
Yeah.
Are you kidding
would
me?
have got. And Vishy, we're gonna clean it up. I love you, buddy, but $2 ain't enough. $2 ain't enough.
So let's talk about that, right? So you're saying this is not political because I mean they didn't
Well,
subpoena
no. I'm
him
not saying that.
No.
I'm not saying that.
or
I'm
I
saying
the-
that for
go for it.
me, right? I do not know, and I do not have enough information to make a legitimate decision here. And what has pushed me towards that is, again, I start from the position that whatever Trump is doing is corrupt when it comes to the judicial system. That's my starting point. But there has been enough stuff to kind of push me to the side of, well, now I'm unsure.
No,
And
Wick,
one
to
of
be
those
clear,
things-
Wick, to
and
be
one
clear.
of those
Wait,
things-
no,
one of
Wick,
those things,
Wick,
they even clear it up.
Wick.
One of those-
You
I gotta finish.
moved from Trump probably or might not be doing something illegitimate because there's a plausible scenario where this could be okay. Not maybe
only
Trump
that-
is
not
illegitimate
only that,
and
but it's
also
not
there's a
just
plausible
plausible.
thing because that's
It's not
my
just
position.
plausible. I think it's likely. It's not just plausible to me. I think it's likely. It's 60-40. It's
Sure.
likely. It's more than a coin toss. And
Based on
again,
what?
one of those pieces of information that led me to thinking it's a 60-40 thing is, well, if they simply wanted to go after him because of his, they do not like Hasan Piker, he's an enemy, doing it with China would have been much more political advantageous for them because
They're not trying
most
to
people
manufacture a
are
war with
more
China right now.
worried about China. Hold on, with China and Taiwan and the
They're
issues
not
that
trying
are
to
going
manufacture.
on
No,
right
Wick,
not-
don't be
there.
yes,
stupid. They are not trying to start a war with China right now. That is so
They want to
obviously true.
invade Cuba. They want to invade Cuba 100%. And they wanted to chill people's connections to Cuba and their support for Cuba. And that's clearly what's happening here.
No, if
and
they wanted to
with
chill
respect to
people's
prior
if they
conduct
wanted
against
to chill people's connections, they would have gone over after everyone who went
Yes.
to Cuba.
If
But
they
would
thought,
not.
if
okay,
they
that's
thought
an
they could get
impossible
away with
standard,
it, right?
Wait. So that's an impossible standard. What you're saying is, in order for me to demonstrate that, why do you say "whoa" so incredulously when I'm about to explain it? I'm about to explain why it's an impossible standard.
Yeah,
If
go
what
ahead.
you're saying is, in order to show that you have a chilling intent, you would need to show them trying to chill every other similarly situated person. I think you have to concede that that's an impossible bar.
Well,
That's
Could they have sent it to one other?
I'm not saying it had
They
to have
did.
happened.
Wait.
They did.
Because this isn't a courtroom, and I don't need evidentiary proof that would fly in a courtroom. I can make.
I'm not saying
inferences
legally.
based
I'm saying
on incomplete
I'm not saying
information,
legally. I'm
and
saying
the
in normal
inferences I'm
conversation.
making is like, okay, well, this makes it if they wanted to chill people having positive relations with Cuba or having a positive view of Cuba or helping Cuba in these ways, they would have gone after everyone there. Most likely.
No, that's not true.
Wait.
Wait.
Not
You know that's not true. Wait, let me respond to you. Right. So when they went after law firms, did they go after every single law firm? When they went after
Everyone that,
universities,
yes,
did they go after
everyone that
every
was
single?
helping
No,
Trump's enemies,
no,
they did. Every single one.
No, they didn't.
That's not what occurred. No, they picked and choose the ones either that Trump hated the most, or for whatever reason were more out front in terms of their opposition, or let's say they helped Hillary Clinton on a matter. And when they did that, other firms that weren't specifically targeted were chilled. And that's also true of universities who saw what was happening to Harvard and other schools, and you didn't need to go after every single school to get compliance. Same thing, by the way, when it came to immigration. Did they need to go after every single green card holder who criticized the Israel policy? No. They picked and chose, and everyone else got the message. And for you to say, well, in order for me to think that that's their intent, they would need to go after similarly situated people.
You're
that is
really
wrong.
dumbing it down. You're really dumbing it down. You're just
How's that dumbing it?
you're dumbing it down by removing a lot of variables and factors, and you're essentially saying that, oh well, when they went after the law firms, they just went after a couple of them. It's like, no, there was factors and variables that went into who they targeted and why they targeted. For example, as we discussed before, and with Hasan, that there are variables and factors that differentiate Hasan from other people that go beyond his follower count.
So I'm really just trying to get you guys to understand the one singular point I'm making here, which is the following, right? Just because you haven't shown that they've attempted to do a specific action as to people who are similarly situated doesn't mean that they're not trying to chill. That's you guys agree with that, right?
Necessarily mean that,
Okay,
but
so
I think that it suggests to me that it might be the case.
Yes.
No, why does it move the needle on you at all if they pick two test cases? The same way, by the way, that they've done in other instances before.
Because
I see no
I see no significant downside for them to just subpoenaing them all. Like, I see
Yeah,
no
but-
significant political hit that they would take from doing that. There would be no
What?
downside to doing that.
There's a huge
Yeah, there would
outrage
be a
about it. What do you
downside
mean?
to going. There's not a huge outrage about this.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. What are you talking
So-
about?
so-
There's like a whole like media swing, and if you think if they didn't go after more journalists who had more evidence that they're
No,
not
I don't
as
think I don't think
hated
I
as
don't think
Hassan
there would be
Piker,
more
that they wouldn't get more
outrage.
pushback?
Hold on,
You don't
I
think there would be
think
any
no,
more?
No, I think your intuition here is incorrect. I think that if they had gone after every single person on that flotilla, the outrage needle wouldn't have moved in any significant.
Really? That's. I mean,
That's
you
insane
don't
to
think that apes strong together? Have you ever heard that? Apes strong together. Okay. Do
Heard
you understand
but I
that?
don't think it applies in
yeah,
this situation.
Yeah.
So it does apply in the situation. The more you paint with a broad
Because-
brush, the more people that you get involved, the less likely that you're going to have a unified opposition against particular individuals, because those people
You
who are
could say
targeted
that
have,
about
have their
anything.
own networks. All I'm trying to tell you is that it's true on both inferences. It's true on both worlds. It's true in the world in which they're chilling, that they might not go after everybody, and it's true in the world in
Everything-
which they're not chilling, that they might not go after everybody. Right? So
That's
Wick,
why I'm
everything that you've
neutral.
said-
it's
You're
true on both
neutral.
worlds.
There's equal
Wick,
to me, equal evidence.
Wick, do you think they're
no,
trying to
it doesn't
create a
increase or
media
lower
chilling
that.
effect? Do you think they're trying to create a media chilling effect when they go after Jimmy Kimmel? Just Jimmy Kimmel?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
It's just Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh yeah, it's just Jimmy.
Okay.
Because he's the one who
no,
said
it's
the
not
thing.
just Jimmy Kimmel. To be
No,
clear.
what do you
We've
mean
gone
the
after
thing? A bunch of
all
people said a bunch of shit against the Trump
Bunch of
admin,
people say
but they
stuff,
just
yeah.
went after Jimmy Kimmel. So I mean, like, right? Like, it's just because
Yes,
he's the one who
because
crossed the
there's no
line, right?
legitimate, again, there's no legitimate case for this.
Yes,
But
correct.
in the instance here, there is.
Wait, hold on.
I think
What?
once
I can't paint a scenario
on,
for
you
you
don't-
right
you don't-
now that
can you
something
just
that Jimmy
give me
Kimmel
that?
said might have
You just
incited
grant
violence,
that,
Wick.
that there
Wait,
is
no,
a
no,
much
no.
more
I'm not going to grant you that.
compelling
Do you think that
case
there's a
to
scenario that
legitimacy
Jimmy Kimmel
when
might have
it
said
comes to
something that incited
hostile
violence?
foreign
Do you
government
think,
than a talk
Wick,
show host?
Wick, do you think that Jimmy Kimmel could have said something that incited violence against Republicans?
Not in any
No.
No,
meaningful
there's
way.
not
Zero.
not a
The fact that
plausible
you're trying to
scenario. Not a
say
single.
that it
No,
is
no. Now you're
equally
being bad faith.
plausible
No,
Jimmy
hold on. I
that
didn't
a
say equally
hostile
plausible.
foreign
I did not say equally.
government
No, I did
use
not say
or
equally
work
plausible. I
through
asked you,
a
Wick,
prolific
stop. Wick,
political
stop.
streamer,
Stop.
and it's
I'm
you're
not
even
saying these are
letting me
equal.
finish.
You're strawmanning me. I'm not saying they're equal. I'm asking you if there's a plausible scenario where Jimmy Kimmel said anything that could have incited violence. Anything.
What is
No.
the comparison?
There's not a single thing. You can't
Because
imagine
you
a
have the
scenario.
record. It was
So
not there.
You're talking
is
about
so
an administration
ridiculous.
that indicted Comey for 8647, right?
Yes,
it's
So,
horrible.
and we know there's no
there is a
plausible
difference.
reason to believe that they
Not even
actually thought that that was
plausible.
a threat.
What
No,
if?
th-
What
there's
if?
additional? There's
you don't think
additional
it's-
reasons that Jimmy Kimmel. There's
No,
a,
let's
additional.
be clear. This needs to be said. Let's be clear. Fundamentally, what is the separation here is people who think it matters that Hasan might have talked to an intelligence operative and people who don't. That's the difference.
Yeah, no, that's not what's going on here. So the difference is people who are willing to give the
Oh,
benefit of the
you said
doubt
it,
to this
okay.
administration when it comes to their investigations of politically relevant people, and those who know
This
better,
isn't
and they
a
know
matter
better,
of a
and they
benefit
know
of
better,
doubt, and they know better. You're so dishonest.
and
I
they-
don't even know
wait,
why
wait,
you're
let-
in
let-
this
let-
chat,
let-
dude.
let- let
I
me
would not be
continue. And they-
talking with you
and
for
they
2
know
hours.
better.
This is crazy.
And the reason
I
they
really have
and
no
the reason
interest in
the reason
engaging with you in any good
because
faith
you're
because
cooked.
you're
You're
constantly
cooked. Wait,
dishonest.
what's bad faith?
Nobody's
What's
cooked.
bad
You
faith?
haven't made a
What's
single
bad faith?
substantial
What's
point.
bad faith?
There's
What's
absolutely
bad faith?
nothing. The bad faith is that you keep on making statements that are complete. They have no
Which
basis
statement?
in what we're talking about. Apes are strong together. Shut the fuck up. Like, we're
Wait,
having a
hang on-
What do you
hang on a
think that
second.
means? What do you think that means? Do you think he's just saying
what do you think
random
that meant?
quotes?
What do you think that statement meant? Wait,
That's
what do you think?
irrelevant.
Let's examine that
you could
statement. Let's
say
examine.
these-
Let's
no,
examine that
let's not
statement.
examine
Bish,
this
no,
statement.
no, let
because
that,
you're
no,
cooked.
let us, because you're being
No,
ridiculous.
Wait, Wick, hang on. He's gonna accuse me of bad faith. He's gonna accuse me of bad faith.
Over this,
Okay, I'm
Pisco.
gonna mute all of you unless you shut up right now. I'm putting my moderate back hat on. Pisco, give your statement, and
So
then once you've
he's
given your
accusing me of
statement, I'll
bad
let Bishop
faith,
respond.
and he has
Please.
he has no basis to do that. When I said apes strong together, clearly the point there is to suggest that there are downsides to going too far and getting people who and instead of isolating individuals who can be chilling targets. That's what that statement meant. There's nothing bad faith about it. You just can't contend with the arguments.
That shows how small your mind is that you think I can't contend with that. It is a
Well, you
simple
said it was
rebuttal.
bad faith.
It is bad faith because you could
You're
say
gonna
that
let-
about anything.
Hold on, you're gonna have to let Bishop respond uninterrupted. Go ahead, Bishop.
You could say that about literally anything. It has there is no value there. There is nowhere for that conversation to
what-
go. There is
you don't
there is no response to that. There's no analysis. That's why I said I don't even
Wait,
want to
Bishop,
talk
I can
about
give a
it.
response. Do you want me to
Wait,
steel man
Bishop
the
said-
response?
Bishop, that was a response to you all saying there's no plausible reason why they would avoid subpoenaing everyone
Less
there.
plausible, not no plausible. Less plausible.
Yes.
Well, I don't know how you make that determination, but basically that there's no cost entailed in subpoenaing more of these
no
people.
real cost.
Right?
Yes, that's my intuition.
Yes, so you guys had stated
no real cost.
that there's no real cost, there's no significant cost in painting with it and getting all of these people and subpoenaing them. And what I responded to is actually isolating people is quite effective. Ape strong together. The more people you have, the more likely you're going to get them to rally up against you. That was the response there. I'm not trying to say that that's what you would. I'm trying to say that it's your false contention that there is no strategic advantage to isolation. That's what I'm trying to get at, and it's a response to what you said.
What did they gain by isolating Hassan?
Do you not think that it is easier to go after an individual and not have to defend why you're going after every single person if they all have different reasons, different backgrounds, and different characters that need to be defended? Do you think it's not easier to pick the easiest, weakest person who has the most reason to be attacked for other reasons, like the administration has gone after? You don't think that's easier than if you went after literally every single person?
The easiest person.
You don't think he's the easiest to attack?
The easiest, weakest person on that trip is somebody that we couldn't even name on this fucking panel.
That might be their. That might make no. Easiest,
ridiculous.
Weakest in regards to they're the easiest to attack. They're the easiest target because they have all this smoke against them. Even Democrats are going against Hasan for various reasons. Right?
And it's notable too to actually have the chilling effect have effect.
Wouldn't it be a chilling attack if they went after a bunch of non-millionaires and said Trump administration is persecuting large?
No, because that's harder for them to defend. That's the whole point.
For them to defend.
If you did, if you did all of it, it's not. It's literally not.
Everyone hates Hasan. Wait,
oh my God.
This is first of all, you could disagree with the disposition, but what I take issue with is your notion that it's bad faith. It's bad faith to say that there could be a strategic reason to go after Hasan Piker.
You've been interrupting and talking over people and using bad faith arguments since the second you got in here. Period.
Name one bad faith argument. Name one bad faith argument.
I just did. The fucking
and then we just completely reasonably explained it, and you can't even acknowledge that it's a totally legitimate argument.
It is not a legitimate argument. There is nothing.
Oh, okay.
There is no
well, I didn't think about it that way. Fair enough.
Yes, no, there is. You can acknowledge that. Yeah, actually, it might make some strategic sense to pick and choose who you're going to isolate based on factors.
You're saying I
right?
can just agree with everything you're saying. That's the solution.
Listen, the fact that you took an indefensible position isn't my fault. You took the position that there's no real cost.
Your position is not defensible. Your entire position is that they're going after Hasan, and by them going after Hasan and Medea, a millionaire with tons of fans and an audience, and tons of relevancy, and going after the leader, Susan Medea or whatever, Benjamin. And by going after them,
that's not what I'm characterizing as indefensible. That's not what I'm characterizing as indefensible. What I'm characterizing as indefensible is this notion that there couldn't be a real cost associated with painting your subpoenas with a broader brush. That's what I think is indefensible. Of course, there are some possible strategic
Let me
reasons
back
for
him
that.
up here. Let me back him up here. I do not think that the response against these subpoenas would be higher had they subpoenaed every single person that went on the flotilla trip.
Okay,
I do not think in any real sense, right? They picked the biggest
Can I give you a micro example?
Right? That had the most ability to influence and gin up a defense force, right?
So can I give you a micro example?
Hasan, hold on, just let me ask this question. You would acknowledge that Hasan and the millionaire that they subpoenaed, I forget her name, they have the most resources, clout, and influence in order to gin up the most resistance against this, correct?
But less sympathy, right? Yes, but the least sympathy. I mean, yes, they have resources, but the least sympathy. Right? You're not hearing that part when we say, right?
Act of which do you think matters more? And for me, the resources that they have, the clout that they have, matters more than the already baked into the cake least sympathy that they have. That's
listen.
Just
the chilling effect is more attenuated.
The people on the flotilla is already marked by Hasan being with them. They've already lost sympathy. Like
what I'm trying to suggest to you guys.
That's my
you guys are taking the position.
It's intuition.
Okay, you guys are taking the position,
right?
You guys are taking the position that it hurts the argument that we should take a negative disposition against this action. That they somehow didn't get subpoenas to everyone else, and that basically the fact that it didn't subpoena everyone else is evidence that tends to show that there is probably a more neutral basis for this.
Yeah,
And what I'm telling you is, so
not just
my
this is
I
not what I'm
understand.
hanging my
Oh
argument
my
on,
God.
but it is one
I know
piece of
that,
the
Wick. Wick,
Yeah.
I just repeated exactly what your position is that the fact that they didn't subpoena everybody, right, that would tend to, in your mind, lower the likelihood that this was done for chilling effects.
yes,
That's
that is
correct. That's
one
the
of my
distillation of your
arguments,
position. What I'm telling you is it shouldn't move the needle on that, because there are plausible strategic reasons why they would isolate on people who, like Hasan, and individuals to make test cases, as opposed to painting with a broad brush. And so it shouldn't affect
disagree
your
that this is
overall
plausible
assessment.
as you were putting forth. I think it's less plausible. I don't think it's
In virtue of what is it less plausible?
I think it's less likely. It's plausible,
Less
but
likely.
it's not likely.
Wick,
Yeah, what's
would you
feeding
at
into
least
that?
say, Wick, would
What's
you at
feeding
least
into
say
that?
it's more likely that it would take a lot more work to subpoena literally every single person on that flotilla, and maybe they
No,
just
not
picked the
in
two?
any-
No, it wouldn't be more work.
Not even logistically fighting the subpoenas in court if it gets to that, and actually effectuating the
They would
request for
probably
production.
all fight together, I would imagine.
Can
That
I-
they would have some sort of
would you say there was some
agreement.
sort of together apes that were strong?
No, I don't think that they would be able to contribute resources that would meaningfully make.
I mean, this
up,
is crazy.
like,
So
Oh my
you,
God,
you
dude.
it
really do
would be
think that
like,
it's like
they're suing Elon Musk. I didn't kick him out. Okay, here, give me a
I think
second.
he's backstage.
You got
They'd be
triggered
like,
by the
they're
apes.
suing Elon Musk, but once Wick puts his resources behind Elon Musk, suddenly it's going to
No, man. That
It's
is a
not.
straw man, right?
It's not.
That is a straw man. I mean, no one is saying that like this position of going after just particular individuals is the only one that makes any kind of sense in the world. What we're just trying to tell you is you cannot take from the fact that they chose to go after particular individuals that therefore their intent, it's less likely that it was a non-neutral intent. That's all I'm saying.
Evidence I'm using, but combined with the other pieces of evidence that have been presented to me and the context in which
I'm trying to tell you
and
that
the
specific piece
likelihood
of
that something worth us
that shouldn't change your
asking questions,
priors.
because I want to remind everyone he's not being taken into handcuffs. He's
Yeah.
he's
No,
just
we know that. Yeah, we know that.
He's going
Yeah, we know
to be
that. I mean,
asking
that was true of the global
questions.
entry thing too. They didn't. The global entry thing. That's another situation in which, and this is the micro example I wanted to bring up, where I took that position that this is most likely viewpoint discrimination. I think it's the correct position, and I got excoriated for defending tankies and defending,
You shouldn't have been
the
excoriated for that.
lefties.
I had the same
Yeah.
position.
So that, I'm trying to give you an example of what could be in this administration's thought pattern, right? And here's an example, right? In all of these races, the Republicans
these
have tried to
contexts are
tie.
different.
Let me
You
finish.
would-
You
In all of
talk
these
over
races,
people
in
nonstop.
all of these races, the Republicans have tried, and Trump himself has tried to tie Hasan Piker and the radical left with the Democrats. That's what they're trying to do here as well. They've always tried to do this
I
to
disagree.
link. Okay.
Okay, I disagree. I don't know. It might be the case. Again, I am not pro going after Hasan here. I have gone from against to neutral. I want to make that clear.
It's a pretty big
I
step,
also
Wick.
want to ask you, do you think that the context on which they stopped him in the airport for
Yes.
I forget that thing, that's fundamentally different than him having contact with on foreign soil of a hostile government that just 3 months ago had a shootout, right, to try to kill Cuban dissidents, right, on Florida and off the Florida coast, right? They are actively engaged in hostile actions against American interests across the globe. You have Cubans.
We have an
Cuban nationals
undeclared war against Cuba. You
fighting
understand that?
against
We're so
American
right now we're
assets and
right now
American
we're at war
allies
with
in
Cuba.
Ukraine right now.
So
That's
right now
So
we're
there's
in a state of undeclared
major
war
difference
against
in
Cuba.
context here.
So right now we're in an undeclared state of war against Cuba. I'm not doubting that there is intelligence
And
interests
we
or
have been
potentially
for
neutral.
a long time. Right?
Yeah, but I think just to be clear, that is not inconsistent, right, with the rationale of political motivation. That would be true of the Cold War and the kind of McCarthyism and bullshit that was occurring then. Yes, there was actually, and by the way, there were real nuclear spies and real infiltrators and real interests at stake in the Cold War. That just because that's true doesn't mean this is not likely political.
why I'm
If
only
anything,
neutral.
right?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's
they're
why
not-
I'm only
You're
No,
only
that's-
neutral. You're only neutral on a positive action by Trump. Okay, that this is in some ways kind of started like, well, you know what? Let's hear Trump out. That you know how ridiculous that sounds.
Phrasing. That's a dishonest phrasing.
Is that not what he's doing? Is that not what he's doing,
It's not
Bishop?
what he's doing because
What
you
is he
keep
doing?
on phrasing it as
I'm sorry.
this is
Wait,
Trump.
Bishop,
Yeah, oh, wow,
Bishop,
you're still
Bishop.
talking
Did
over
he
me and
not say?
interrupting me
Yeah,
like
because
you've
you're saying
done for
something
several
fucking
hours.
stupid. Because you're saying something
Yeah,
fucking
because
stupid.
you're saying
Bishop,
something
did
fucking
he?
stupid.
Did he not just say? Oh, no, you, no, you.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
you.
gonna end
Okay,
this.
yeah. So Bishop, yeah, go ahead, leave. Then I don't give a fuck. All right. So what
We'll
Wick
see.
just said was,
Yeah,
well,
what a
let's see
lovely
where the
person to
subpoena
talk with.
goes.
You fucking
If
talk
Hasan
over people,
does get
and you
arrested,
fucking
then maybe I'll
interrupt
change my
people
mind.
nonstop. Like,
All
what
right.
is this shit?
Wait, can I just do my thing real quick, and then you guys can, maybe I'll help chill things off, and then you guys will be
Highly
better.
didn't
No,
like
fuck
it.
you
Are
too.
you
No,
gonna
go
help chill
ahead.
things off? Okay, give us
All right.
what you got.
So Wick and I'm sorry, what's the other guy's
Bishop.
name?
Bishop, I'll leave.
Okay,
So you won't interrupt.
no, Pisco, come back. Pisco, come back. You might like this. So
Too late.
you two have been clearance holders, right?
Mhm.
What happens if you don't show up to work?
They'll
Unannounced.
find you.
Exactly.
You go AWOL. You get arrested.
So you guys are clearly, just by the idea of having a clearance, are very important people, and they want to know where the fuck you are, right?
Yes.
More or
true,
less.
correct,
Either of you ever traveled to another country?
Yes.
Yep.
What do you have to do before you go to another country?
You have to do a lot of paperwork.
And what do you do when you get back from that country?
You
You have to
another
do even
briefing.
more paperwork.
What do you have to tell them?
Everything.
Very
Where
simple,
you've
and it's
been, who you've
unclassified.
talked to, all these things, right?
Exactly. That's it. So you go on vacation, you submit an unclassified piece of simple paperwork, where you've been, who you talked to, the end, right? Anything suspicious? That's the other question, right? That's it. So you guys go do a trip. Does it change depending on what country you go to?
Yeah,
Yes.
actually.
No, because I went to China, and it was the same form as when I went to fucking Aruba.
Well, that doesn't mean it was the same brief.
No,
It
yeah,
was-
well, you
no, no,
the
no.
briefing
No,
I
no, no,
had
no,
when
I don't care
hold on,
about
the
the
briefing
brief.
I had when I went to
The
England
briefs, yes,
is a lot
every
different than the
country
briefing
has a
I had
different
when
brief.
I went
Sure,
to other
yes,
countries.
every country has a different
lot
brief.
different.
But the questions they ask you, no agent comes to you. Who do you submit that paperwork to? Who's the individual?
Actually, I'll tell you something. When I worked my first contract with the FBI, and this was after working on contracts with other intelligence agencies, the FBI's Washington field office specifically called me in. They went back over line by line my SF-86, and what was very interesting to me was that they specifically paid extra attention to Cuba. I was detained in an airport under suspicion of being a terrorist in the Odessa airport in Ukraine. And they didn't give a fuck about that. What they
That's
cared
fine.
about most was my time in
We'll get to
Cuba.
that.
And so
We'll
my
get to
point
that.
is, it
No,
is
wait,
very different by country.
We'll get to that.
You got
The
to
brief,
let him finish,
every
all
country
right.
has a very specific brief. Every country has a very specific brief. Some countries you're forbidden to go to. I was allowed to go to certain foreign countries that you wouldn't believe. I wasn't allowed
Sure.
to go to fucking Mexico, right? But
Sure.
that was more of kidnapping and all that stuff. But either way, the point is, who do you submit that paperwork to?
Your
When you come
security
back.
officer, your SSO.
Exactly, your SSO.
liars on
That's
you.
it. So you submit it to the SSO. No agent has to talk to you. If they have further questions, that SSO will come to you and ask those questions. But otherwise, nothing suspicious. No one's going to come fucking talk to you. The idea that Hasan has come back from this country and that he's getting questioned in any way is in any way just a normal thing. I'll use an anecdote. My mother, the other day, I was talking to her about the post 9/11 hysteria around Islamophobia. And I said, it was really fucking racist that everyone on Fox News and even CNN and all this stuff, every time a Muslim was there, we had to ask them, hey, you denounce all this 9/11 shit, right? And my mom's defense of that was, we needed to hear it. We needed to know. That's kind of the same thing I'm hearing right here.
Well,
So
let
the
me
last
ask
thing
you a
I'll
question,
say-
Mike.
whoa,
Can
no,
I ask you a question, please?
whoa.
Hold on,
No,
just a
no,
second.
I'm not done.
Just-
I'm not done with the point. So
get to it.
who handles counterintelligence in the United States?
Basically, every intelligence agency and the
The
DCSA.
FBI. The FBI has the jurisdiction over counterintelligence within the United States.
DCSA does it as well. So does DHSINA.
Yes,
There's like
yes,
countless
everyone.
of
Yes, yes.
I
and
don't
the fucking
think,
National Counter. Well, the National
yeah.
Counterterrorism Center is run by the CIA. Yes, all of these fucking organizations have counterintelligence aspects, but the primary domain for counterintelligence is the FBI. Why then is Hasan Piker being subpoenaed
Are we?
by the United States Treasury Department, and not just the Treasury Department? Why is it OFAC within the Treasury Department? Is there an intelligence aspect possibly to it? Yes, but that would be economic intelligence, SG&E, EPIC, etc. So you
for
two
example-
intelligence professionals who know that your body is way more important than Hasan's, and also if you've been
I'm
involved
not
in
more
any,
important than a guy who has influence over millions of people.
I totally get Pisco's feelings right now. Stop. And
What are you talking
you-
about? You're
You're
going
filibuster,
on and
bro.
on.
because
for
I'm
like
not
5
done
That's
minutes.
talking and you're
simple
interrupting me, and I
question.
haven't finished.
I have a
haven't finished
simple
making a
question
point.
for you,
No,
Lycan.
I haven't
Are
finished
we in
making
an
my point.
undisclosed,
You can't. Nope.
disclosed state of war with China?
Nope.
Notice how he
I'm
won't
not
answer
done.
his
How long are you
question.
I'm
gonna
not
keep
done.
going?
He'll run from
I'm
it.
almost done.
He'll
I'm almost done.
Okay,
So
okay.
OFAC
run
within the fucking
away.
Treasury Department is the one who submits the subpoena. But if you guys knew anything about the way that even celebrities get fucking questioned with possible significant, meaningful intelligence contacts or information they would want to know, you would know that subpoena isn't a subpoena. It is someone that shows up at your fucking door and asks you to come down into the office and talk to them. And if you
Time
refuse
to
it,
answer
then they
my
can
question.
subpoena. No, I
Well,
want
yeah, this
you
is like completely relevant to whether or
process
not you
everything
think
I
this
just
is
fucking said.
completely
I-
outside of the
because
realm of
question,
normalcy,
we are
right?
aware of this, but it is you're asking me a bunch of questions that I think are irrelevant to the major
No, this is
point.
the sole
Are
point.
we in
Wick,
an
is this
undisclosed
not
state
an
of war with China?
extra special case where instead
Are
of doing
we
what
in
they
an
would do with
undisclosed
every
state of
what
war
Wick,
with
answer his
China?
question. Is this
Are
not
we
a
in an
special case where they're
undisclosed
doing a
state of
completely
war
different
with
thing? Wick,
China?
answer his question.
Well, his main
I'm-
point was wrong. His main point was that there are not unique circumstances depending upon the country of origin, and that's just wrong.
No,
that's
his
just
main
wildly
point was
incorrect.
that subpoenaing is a lot different from what they normally do with these celebrities, which is have someone go and not make a big stink
this
about
is
it,
not
but
a
just go
normal
question.
situation.
Why is this
Also-
different
also,
specifically
if-
for Hasan?
And let me tell you something, and that Lycan will understand this. If they were to approach you to debrief you on specific questions and information related to a trip, and they didn't subpoena you, you would face an SOR. The circumstances with somebody who doesn't have to answer to the government are significantly different. If you don't collaborate, the threshold for losing your security clearance, which by the way is losing your entire life, it's not your career, it's your life, because you're going to wind up getting debarred, which means you're going to get kicked off of all federal property. So that means even if you don't want to work for the government ever again, you'll never live a normal life again. But the process, the threshold for doing that is fucking nothing. They can make whatever argument they want. So therefore, people in our position are heavily forced to cooperate with these things. So the fact that we haven't faced a subpoena or something like that, it is not indicative of anything. It's a really
First of all, he was saying he was
it's a really
using
bad
the level-
comparison.
I'm sorry. I actually came in here just to drop that information. I have no interest in continuing with this debate. Neil's grasped the concept enough that I think he's going to be able to continue forth. So you guys have fun.
Thank you, Lycan.
Damn. Okay. So again, he was talking about
Why
how
didn't he
celebrities
answer my
would have to do
question? I'm
this
very
without
curious.
subpoenas,
I
right?
told you. Can I just say I predicted this? I said, hey, he's not going to address this point or answer this
'Cause,
question.
well, you didn't address
He's
this
going to run
point.
for it. And lo and behold, Wick is correct again.
The concept that he
informed.
dropped was that even celebrities, not people answering for some secret clearance or going under something where they are under more scrutiny from the government and have to answer through these specific channels, don't get subpoenaed for these sorts of things. So why is it specific to Hasan in this case?
Sure.
Because the circumstances with Hasan is he's been in contact with a hostile foreign government. They set
Why?
up a political program
Why not?
together, and they may have information that he had or suspect that he might have had contact with people
Wick,
that they
you're
would
not
want to
addressing the
know
point.
what
You're
they-
not addressing the point. Wick, if Dennis
What is the
Rodman
point?
comes back from North Korea, why isn't there a big news story about him being subpoenaed?
Oh, dude, if you think Dennis Rodman wasn't collaborating with the U.S. government, you're fucking
whoa,
crazy.
Whoa. That's not what I asked. I said, why is there not a big news story about Dennis Rodman being subpoenaed?
because Dennis Rodman was cooperating with the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Okay,
What do you mean?
how?
There
In
was
a
a
way that
lot of
Hasan
news
is-
stories about
How
that.
do you
We
know?
know about it.
Whoa.
What do you mean?
How do you
It's been
know?
in the news.
No.
It's been
How
in
do
the
you
news.
know? How do you know that if someone went to Hasan's door, as this what Lycan suggested, this non-subpoena track of how
Yeah.
you would get this information out of this person, say, hey, we have reason to believe XYZ, you should come down to the station and talk to us, or whatever their office is. Why did that not happen? Why was it a subpoena?
Oh, well, we don't know that didn't happen.
Yeah, they came to talk to him, and he said no.
Okay. Well, so now we're
Or-
just
or
like
may-
making
or-
shit up. All right, cool. All right.
What do you
Look,
mean?
you've
What-
been
what-
making
what do
shit
you-
up the whole time.
No.
Well, I'm
right?
not trying to make shit up. What do you mean? What's
No,
your?
the only reason that you can now defend that this subpoena happened is, well, actually, that might have happened, and we don't know that it didn't happen. Versus
Well,
my
I didn't
inference,
know
which
there was
is
a witch
we
hunt.
have an administration with a pattern of going after people for no fucking reason because they oppose them, and that's much more likely than everything I just described with this back channel and going
No,
through and having
we
this
have a-
off the record conversation that's not a news story.
hostile
That
government
probably
was
happened. We just never heard
conducted-
of that yet, but we'll find out about it later.
we don't
I'm going to
even-
give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's hear him out and see what the Trump admin's really going after, and then we can make our decision as to whether or not this is bullshit. That's what you're saying.
Well, wait a minute. We don't even know for a fact that the subpoena has happened yet. For all we know, and
Right.
actually what it sounds like where it's at is that this is in the upper workings of the government bureaucracy, and it hasn't made its way down yet. So for all we know, this person coming to Hasan's door that he said that he might have said no to, this might not have even happened yet.
That's
So he might not even get a subpoena. Somebody might
Okay.
show up at his door and ask for him, hey, can you help us with this?
well. Then
And
why are
because
we
of all
talking?
this
Wait.
bullshit-
Okay. Yeah. Why are we talking about it then? Why is this a news story?
I mean, well, it's a news story because Fox News is sensationalist. Wow, is that like that hasn't been under debate at any point in this conversation?
Okay. And where do you think Fox News got this information about the subpoena?
Probably from a source in the government.
From the Trump admin, right? Who maybe
I mean,
wants to
not
make this a big
necessarily.
fucking story? No, oh, come the fuck on, dude. Are you serious?
I mean, the difference doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter to what we're talking about, whether it's somebody
literally
that
the
is
whole point of this
acting
conversation.
specifically as a politically operative for Trump, or whether they're it's the same effect, right? Like what your whole argument, if your argument is entirely correct, which it might be, it doesn't matter whether the leak was a Trump crony or just a Fox News national security confidant.
Wouldn't
It's
it
still the
matter
same
as to
thing.
whether or not it's going after Hasan as part of the government's sort of like issue to
It
do
doesn't
this,
matter
or
who leaked it. I mean, the Trump admin could be just pursuing Hasan for the headline and for politics, and the person who leaked it just being a traditional Fox News insider, but not a Trump crony. That doesn't really matter. That's why I'm saying, I'm not trying to like cut off your argument here. I don't think that's where your argument is. I don't think that's where
My
the
argument
motivation
is
of even your side is.
if the person who leaked it wants to be part of this chilling effect, obviously it's probably in line with what Trump specifically going after this person. But if these subpoenas come out, and there is one for every single person, and they're not specifically targeting Hasan, maybe you would have a point. And I guess maybe I should say, let's wait and see, since the subpoenas maybe haven't even been issued yet. But the point we're trying to make is, if you look at this in the context of the pattern of how they've been doing this, it's pretty obvious that the reason they're leaking or sensationalizing these things is because they do this. This is what they've been doing
I
for
think
2
under
years.
normal
It's what they did.
circumstances, I would agree with you, but the circumstances
Yes.
in this case are such that we should take a wait and see approach. $5
Yes.
from True Striker to say, Pisco, is there no world in which it's legitimate to investigate a self-proclaimed propagandist who went and spoke with an adversary's government? $20.
Yeah, $20.
Yeah, $20 from Ten Hauser. Hasan Piker himself was hoping Adam Schiff's indictment led to him winding up in jail. Since so many quote-unquote libs have said Hasan should still be considered part of the Democratic tent, maybe we should apply that mindset to him too. $5 from Vishy. Rage bait. Oh, sorry. Well, yo, why is Pisco shilling for tankies right now? And then $2
That's
from
rage
General
bait.
Green.
Yeah.
Say,
Yeah.
yes.
Once again,
China isn't sanctioned by us. It's different than Cuba.
sure. Yeah. Once again, I think that I would philosophically start off with where you are, the soy pill. I would start off with, and once again, I feel like we wound up just getting in an argument over semantics, where effectively I was by and large from the same point as Pisco, where maybe Pisco is like 80% distrust, 20% investigate, and I'm like 65% distrust, 35% investigate, whatever. But I would start off where you were at, where I'm like, okay, political from the Trump administration, we see them weaponizing things like, for example, the DOD under Hegseth weaponized different aspects of UCM Army standards on social media guidance and used them against me. Was I technically wrong? Nah. Not really, but kind of, you could make that argument. But they unevenly applied it to military service members during the Charlie Kirk drama, right? I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I would start off where you are.
And and
However,
it seems to be what changed your mind is that you've conducted a scenario where this could happen. And to me, I would need to see much more from him, other than he spoke to an official, and that seems to be it, right?
Yeah, my concern, and I have a legitimate concern of this. And by the way, I meditated on this many times leading up to this show.
Yeah, last little exchange, and I do have to go. So
Sure. Yeah, I meditated on it many times leading up to this show, but I feel like we're dealing with, as a society, how do we deal with this, what we call hybrid warfare? How do we deal with these influence operations? We have private citizens that are collaborating. I mean, if Hasan declared himself as a foreign agent, that would do nothing to his show. He could still have his show, he could still have his audience, he could still do all of this, and he could still officially work with Cuban intelligence to work on the programming on his show. Okay? And so the question is, how do we deal with this? The bigger question that the government is dealing it with is fucking Tucker Carlson. Even the Trump administration doesn't know what to do with Tucker Carlson. They know that he's working with the Iranian government. They're playing with the idea of labeling him as a domestic terrorist, which is obviously fucking insane and an incredibly terrifying direction to go down. But I think I don't know what the answer is. I don't know where we're supposed to go. But I think the easiest way to start is when somebody trips up the laws that we do have that are already in place, we can use that as an opportunity to dig a little deeper.
Okay, and I would say that I think your justification isn't misplaced, and I would have a much higher threshold for when I think we should start going after private citizens for this sort of stuff. Tenant media is obviously over the line for that, and I think the fact that the Trump admin threw it out is indication that they don't give a fuck about this sort of stuff. They just care about going after their political opponents, and I think we should be opposing this wherever we can until there's an actual legitimate piece of information that shows that they're collabing with a foreign government to like subvert American interests to a significant degree, and I haven't seen a single piece of that, so.
Okay. Gang, if you liked what we had to say, if you enjoyed this content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got some great shows coming up for you. We're setting them up as we speak. I am going to take a little bit of a long weekend. It's been a week.
You just had a
So I'm
3-day
gonna
weekend, Wick. Come on.
sort of. So I'm going to take a couple days off here, but we're coming back strong Monday. I'm going to be doing a call-in stream. That will be fun. And then we're setting up a Stale 2000 versus the world on what are the lines when it comes to mass reporting and other such things. Where should we draw the line there? Is it ever okay? That should be a great conversation. I hope we all get there. Soy Pill, where can they find you?
You can find me at The Soy Pill on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, OnlyFans, TikTok, xnxx.com, YouPorn, and every other cool site.
And where can they find you, Mr. Bishop?
They can find me primarily on Twitter at KBP9891. And
someone asked for your handle,
that's all I
Bishop.
got.
I was going to say you can apply for a more straightforward like Bishop handle because I tried to give your handle to Lycan and it was hard to relay it. So
sorry, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still transitioning from like being an absolute nothing into like, oh, maybe I should like make it easier for people to find me and stuff. So I'll try to figure that out.
You also have a Substack, and I hope you're still promoting that because that's what I'm promoting.
Oh yeah,
Check that out.
Yeah, I do have a Substack where I'm talking about Lockheed liberalism. I'd like to go deeper in the near future, but for now, still dealing with the fundamental tenets of being a liberal.
Bye-bye, everyone. Wave bye-bye.
Bye, Wick. Nice talking to you, Bishop. I know it got
nice talking to you,
don't worry. That's normal.
Yeah. Good conversation. I loved it.
Good talk. All right, guys. Let me see. Can I even get this intermission working? Webcam source. Change this to this one. Oh, second. It's going to let me do that. Just going to freeze up my whole computer. I don't even know if you guys can still hear me. Oh, there we go. Bye-bye. Come on. Hello? Please? There we go. Activate. Ooh, okay, we're here. Hey, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you didn't know, this stream is sponsored by Backrooms, the movie. Go watch Backrooms, the movie, because I'm in the back rooms. Backrooms. Oh, spooky. How many rooms are there? Who knows? What's down there? I don't know. You'll have to watch the movie to find out. No, I'm not sponsored by them, but I really do want to see that film. I just saw Obsession. It was fantastic. And Backrooms better be better, or else I'm going to judge it based on how good Obsession was. I hope you enjoyed me yelling at them about that. I think this whole thing's ridiculous. I think this is so obviously a political hit job. But hey, maybe it turns out Hasan's just a foreign actor. We'll see. Thanks for tuning in. I'm working and editing on the woke video, which might need some touches based on how I feel about it, and also needs an ad to be approved, so keep an eye out for that one. Probably first week of June, I think, is when it's going to come out. So next week. Thanks for all the views on the last video. That really helped me out. And is there anything else that I need to announce? I don't think I have any other streams, but yeah, Live and Learn Monday. So thanks so much, guys. Type 1 to end the deep state. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh no, I did read this. Tony Shenanigans says, "What's my opinion on the R slur?" I even say it in the woke video, guys. Like I'm just okay with it. I just don't think it's that bad, and I think people just started pearl clutching about it recently. But it's just like compared to all the other shit that's going on. Like, you know what? You can get on my case about the R slur when, well, like, you know, it's like, I don't know, Kamala Harris's 20th term. Okay, we're not there yet. All right, we're fighting fire with fire. We're saying the R slur. We're saying retard. Thanks for tuning in. Type 1 to the deep state. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. And I don't know if that guy who came in here was apparently a fan is watching, but hey, nice to meet you, man. Sorry I didn't ask your name and about you. I was in the middle of the stream, but you're cool. I hope DoorDash